Yo, it's the Cove, episode 7. This one was just me and Marcus. We talked about some stuff we just went through. We both just went through a breakup, a lot of pain, a lot of sadness. The episode's kind of sad, but we felt like we should talk. We needed to talk about it. I think it helped both of us to process everything. But also, I think we felt like we should show... we try to be vulnerable with what we're going through. I try to be vulnerable with everybody in my life on social media, sponsees, friends. I think it's important to show people that, yes, life sucks sometimes, but you can stay sober through it, or you can get through it even if you're not in recovery. It doesn't matter. So I think it's a long one. It's our longest one so far. I think you'll enjoy it. So stick around.
Hey, let's get going. We are short one person tonight because he is in a happy, healthy relationship, and this is not going to be the best place for that.
Nope. Not even a little bit.
And Daniel and I have been, I don't know even how to say it.
Going through it, man. It's, I don't know how to say it other than that. Just going through it. So, I don't know. I guess you want to start? We can go from there.
Yeah, I think this is, we've talked about it the last episode. We took a little bit of a break because of everything that's going on in our lives. And it
was holidays too.
Yeah, the holidays in the middle, that sucked. It made it worse. I always feel like I'm on the wrong side of this mic. Which one's better? Here?
Yeah, I think so.
Or here?
I think the other way.
Here.
There you go.
Anyways, I think first thing I want to say is that this is our side of, this is our point of view. This is our side of it. We've both have had partners in the past, and they have their side of the story. They have their part in everything, and everything that we talk about tonight is going to be 100% ours. And it's not. We're not doing this to I guess to put our personal stuff out there, or I guess we're doing it to put our personal stuff out there, but not theirs. Right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say when I talk about what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna I'm going to be vague about what happened, but I will kind of explain the emotions behind it. But go ahead.
Yeah. Because I think it would be unfair for us to use this, what we've created, as a way to trash on anybody that's been in our lives in any way. Because those people still, are still people, and they, in my case, I can speak for myself. I still care deeply about that person, and she never did anything to really hurt me. What we'll go into is everything is my responsibility. I carry a lot of responsibility for my situation, and this is in no way trying to air out anybody else's stuff. Just, this is my side of things. This is what happened to me. This is what I did to myself, and I think we talked about it last episode, where it's just important to talk about, at least us in recovery for a couple of years, the struggles and the things that we have to overcome even after we've reached some level of recovery, right? After we've gotten to a point in our lives where, I don't feel the obsession to drink or to use anymore. I don't feel that day-to-day level of desire anymore. The times that I deal with any kind of desire or impulse to drink or use is very few and far between, and they're very fleeting. You know what I mean? It's not an often thing anymore. But the things that have happened over the last couple of months have been extremely difficult, and it's been hard for me to, one, wrap my head around, to get through life while it's going on. And the point that we made last episode when we talked about my situation briefly is it's good for me as a person in recovery to highlight that, to talk about those things, to kind of understand, especially now that I've had a little bit of time to process it, and have had the time to go to therapy and go and start going back through the steps, to really kind of talk about my experience on handling a situation that is really uncomfortable in quote unquote long-term recovery. I still don't feel like 3.5 years is really that long. But it's definitely not 60 days or 6 months. I feel like I've gotten to a point in my recovery where I feel pretty solid. I feel like I've been given the opportunity to accomplish a lot, and this is one of those things where it really hit me hard. It gave me an opportunity to understand that just because I've gotten to a certain point that this disease, this lifestyle, this thing that I'm doing with my life does not stop. It does not take a day off. You know, there's that cliche of your addiction's doing push-ups in the parking lot, and you know, I don't want to say it was like that, but it was definitely, you know, that holds some truth in this sense, right? Right. I've been given like the opportunity to talk about this a lot.
Really?
Yeah. It's really been kind of weird.
People or
just people,
clients too?
No, I don't share it with any clients. Like that's
I unloaded on several clients. I unloaded on 2 sponsees. Like I didn't really even mean to, and one of them is your client, and like I felt kind of bad. I was like, man, that does not look good. But I unloaded on them, but I also tied it back to like, if I can stay sober through what I'm going through, you can stay sober for what you're going through.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I have a sponsee that I talked to about it. You know, I spent a couple of days, he was trying to get a hold of me, and I would reply every once in a while and just kept pushing him back. And I just wasn't in a good state of mind to sit down and talk to him and do any step work with him at that time. So when we did meet up, I explained the situation and told him what had happened and where I was at with things. And you know, I didn't unload on him necessarily, but I gave him the information that he needed, and I, you know, did the same thing, kind of said, hey, listen, this is what I'm dealing with right now. And just because you're not dealing with this right now doesn't mean that you won't be able to learn from my mistakes, my experiences. And I think he got some good out of it. So I did get to speak to a sponsee about it. But as far as my clients go, they know that I was struggling with some stuff, and they know that I went through a breakup. They know that I overcame some demons that I had been holding on to. But as far as the details, this will be the first time they'll hear much about the details.
Yeah.
But I've just been given the opportunity, like what really happened is that the person that I was with was just so self-aware that she knew that whatever was happening in me wasn't going to stop if she was there. You know what I mean? I was able to use her.
Going to progress.
Yeah, it was just going to continue to get worse, and I think she just had that awareness to know that she didn't want to be in that situation. You know what I mean? And so in my situation, like it still is painful because there's part of me that I hold a resentment and I feel this anger of like, you know, if all those things that you told me were true, then you'd still be here. But that's just my toxic mentality saying that. Like, I know that that's not reality. I know that that's not feasible. Like, people don't sit through toxic situations, you know, when they're in a good state of mind. You know what I mean? When they're healthy. You see that, like I went through that with my daughter's mom. It was just constant, just one thing after another, and it was always toxic. It was always unhealthy, and it would never got anybody like healthy until we split up, right? So, you know, I know that what she did was probably for the best, but I can't deny the fact that I still feel very, like, sometimes I still feel angry. I just like wish like shit, there were so many things that you told me that tells me that you would never do this. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then when I sit back and look at it, it's like I did the same thing. You know what I mean? I said so many things to you that mean that I would have never done what I did. You know what I mean? So those moments of anger and resentment are also fleeting. They kind of just come and they go, you know?
So for you and your situation, what you just went through, what is like the core defect do you think that showed through the most, that caused this relationship to not work out?
Fear. For me, it was fear.
Yeah.
You know, I went through the steps in 2017. I've worked with sponsees since then. I spent, you know, the 30 days in inpatient treatment, you know, and I did some intense therapy then, and we talked about that with the guy that I was working with as a counselor at the time. We talked about it as friends. You know, 3 years later, we have the opportunity to be friends. You know, once you know the 2 years was over, we got to be able to, you know, talk in a different capacity, right, and interact in a different capacity. So he was the first person I spoke to after this breakup. And I said it before, you know, the first thing he told me was, if you're going to reach out, you better fucking follow up. You better put in the work. And it's not, I didn't want to hear that. You know, I just wanted somebody to be there and help me, like,
coddle you.
Yeah, like tell me that everything was going to be okay and all this other shit. But the reality was that's not what I knew that I wasn't going to him for that. I knew that I wouldn't get that from him, but I guess for whatever reason, that's what I was looking for, right?
Of course.
So it was the first thing he told me. But then he also explained to me, like, listen, dude, we did a lot of really intense work back, in 2017. And I mean, one of the things he had me do was sit in a chair or sit on a couch, and he put an empty chair in front of me. And I had to speak to my significant other at the time, who I had lost right before I went into treatment. He had me speak to her as if she was sitting in that chair. And it was extremely intense. It was emotional. I remember, we spent like an hour and a half, and I was just torn up, crying and bawling and not understanding where all that emotion was coming from. But then he helped me figure it out. He helped me understand what was happening. And like that, the therapy that I went through in that 30 days was very intensive. It felt like we turned over every stone, and we did turn over every fresh stone at that point. You know what I mean? That's what I've kind of figured out at this point in my life, is that everything that we did back then, like, it was kind of like it was like a trauma, or like if you were like an emergency room type visit. It took me a month to identify and recover from the things that I had done that were affecting me right then and there. Right. But there was so much shit that was further back from years and years previous to 2017 that I had healed, but the scars were so deep that they were still affecting me. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm learning about now. And that was one of the things that I remember he talked about primarily, was like, listen, dude, you did a lot of work back then. I spent the next year in treatment of some sort. I was in IOP. I was doing a bunch of stuff like that. I was still seeing a one-on-one therapist, but I started seeing a counselor after I got out of treatment. That she was a female, and I learned that I have a way with manipulation, especially when it comes to female clinicians. Because I'm like, and I don't even know if she had kids, but it just seems like I find a way to become their son, and I manipulate them into believing things that aren't true. And it's something that I've just learned about myself over the past couple of years. And it came to light whenever we were choosing a therapist. This time around, like, he asked me a lot of questions about, like, who I've worked with in the past, how that went, how I would be able to interact with that person. And I remember saying, like, I have this way of being able to kind of just get my way with a female therapist. And he said, all right, well, we'll just not go down that path. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I was kind of wanting a female, you know what I mean? Yeah. And before I knew it, I was set up with another guy, and it just so happened to be my caseworker from treatment. And again, since HIPAA allowed it, like, I was able to start working with him in a different capacity as a therapist now.
Right.
I don't remember exactly what the question you asked was, but
the core defect you said was fear, and I can relate to that. I mean, I have been in fear ever since what I went through. I've been scared to be alone in moments. I've been scared of dying alone. I've been, and I know it's not fucking real, and I know it's crazy for me to even think this way. But I'm like, what if I never find anybody? Mm-hmm. What if I never have kids? What if I, all this shit? And then I started all the shit with the capital and stuff, and I was like, well, what if the world ends before? And it just, it's so, fear is so poisoning, man. Like, it, once you kind of give into it a little bit, it just seems like it fucking takes over, man.
Yeah, man, it really does. And it's something that I realized that is not, like I said, it was much more of like the scars were causing the damage, right. Because at least in my situation, the person that I was with never caused any of that damage to me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I remember having conversations with her about saying, after something would happen, I'd let some of my insecurities flare up, and I'd say something stupid, or I'd do something that I wasn't proud of. And I would tell her, listen, I'm really sorry. Like, I know, I'd recognize my behavior, and I would speak about it. And then I'd say, listen, I know, you have been nothing but great and patient with me, but but you got to understand the people that I've dealt with in the past have not been. And while these scars are not yours, they're bleeding on you, and that was, even in those moments, I didn't realize how true that was. Right. You know what I mean? It wasn't until I started working with my current therapist that I started to really understand the effects and the impacts of trauma. And every time I thought of trauma before, I thought of, car accidents and, sexual assault and, abuse and all these major, huge things, which, thankfully I never had to experience. And he explained to me that trauma can be as small as anything. It could really be as minor or as minuscule. But if that's what's affecting you in your life, and that's what you hold on to, if that's what your body recognizes as a traumatic marker, that that's gonna be yours.
It could be the one time your dad yelled at you like louder than normal or something, or like unexpectedly, or like it, the worst thing you ever went through is the worst thing you ever went through, right? And so, like trauma, like you said, could be anything, and that's the weird part about it is like, especially when we get into recovery and we compare ourselves to others, like, whoa, my addiction may have not been as bad as this guy's, or theirs was worse than mine, like, or mine was worse than theirs, like, but really it doesn't matter because it's all the same level of trauma, and
your body registers it just the same as if somebody else is registering their extreme trauma, right? And it was things that I had thought that, like, it was so long ago. I mean, I was like, one of the first things that we're working on right now was from when I was 17 years old. That's 10 years ago. Yeah. I'm about to turn 28. And when I was 17, I was dating this girl, and, we made mistakes, right? And I took her virginity. And I don't exactly know how it played out on that side of things, but where it started for me was, like, we broke up. And, of course I was bummed out about it. I remember being sad about it for a couple of days, maybe a week or two. But it was like, it was a high school thing. I knew that it wasn't really anything serious. And I had feelings for her, but it wasn't anything, like, overwhelming. And I was an idiot in high school anyways. I mean, I was doing a bunch of dumb shit, so it wasn't like I had plenty of distractions to keep my mind occupied when that happened. But then about 2 months later, there was a knock on the door in my classroom. And I don't even remember what class I was in, because the first part of this memory starts in the hallway of my high school. It's in the main hallway of my high school. And they tell me, teacher comes, pops her head back in the door after answering the door and says, "Hey, I need you to come outside." Very concerned face. And I don't remember exactly how that went, but I remember her face was extremely concerned. And I walked outside, and there was 2 uniformed police officers and a detective there. And of course I had, all the shit that I'd ever done was running through my mind. Everything that I ever done illegal was just racing through my mind of, like, what have I done that is going to, basically end my life right now. And I was, 17 years old, had no idea exactly what was going on. They wouldn't tell me anything. And so they walked me up to the front into the office, and they put the cuffs on me, and they said, "You're under arrest for I don't remember exactly what the charge was, but it was
statutory.
I believe it was statutory rape." Yeah. And they waited until they got me into the office, into a private room. They put the cuffs on me, but then they walked me out the front in handcuffs, and had just told me that, they had just told me that I was being detained for questioning in concern of a statutory rape case. Yeah. And so I had no idea. Like, I was, like, racking my brain of anything.
I didn't rape anybody.
Yeah, exactly. I was just racking my brain of all these different things. Like, what could I possibly have done that somebody would have misconceived that as rape, right? And I was an idiot. Like, I was running around doing whatever I wanted to do, but I never crossed that boundary, at least in my mind, And so we'd get down to the police station, and they read me my Miranda rights. And they put me in a room about this size, and I remember seeing, like, a little dome camera up in the corner, and it was pointed right at me, and I was, and there was a two-way mirror or whatever, and these 2 giant detectives sit down. They were just monsters of men, and they're asking me all these questions about this particular night, and I was like, I don't really remember, man. Like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm, like, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And I can't recall anything that's happening. And I had known enough at the time that I shouldn't say anything either. And so I just kept saying, like, I don't know. I just don't know. And I didn't know enough to say I want a lawyer. I asked them, do I need a lawyer? Like, I feel like I'm not supposed to be here alone. Right. I'm 17. They were going to charge me as an adult. That's why they didn't have to have my parents there. I think I was going to turn 18 soon. So they didn't have to have an adult there, a guardian of any kind. But I was just like, I don't understand. I don't know what's happening. They made it very, very difficult for me to understand what was happening. Right. And all I remember saying was like I don't. Nothing I've ever done was not consensual, and that's all I could say. Was like everything I've ever done was always consensual. It doesn't matter, and that's all I would say. And I was in that room for about 5 or 6 hours.
Jesus.
And they were questioning me. I remember I got pulled out sometime a little bit after lunch, and then I didn't get out of that room until it was dark. And they let me go. But they told me I was, to expect to hear from them, and that was their initial questioning. Well, comes to find out, like, she had told her mom a story. I guess her mom found out she wasn't a virgin anymore, and just made up this, it happened, right? So it wasn't necessarily made up, but it wasn't the way that it got explained, right? It didn't happen the way that it got explained.
Right.
And so I was just terrified the entire time. I had no idea what was happening. And, it was a trauma. And it was one of those things where it went away. And when it went away, there was such a sigh of relief that, like, okay, I'm never going to think about that again.
Right.
But, my therapist explained to me that my body registered that as a trauma. Because for those 5 or 6 hours or whatever it was, and it's funny because I'm getting nervous now. Like, I get worked up now, and I'm shaking right now. And it's it's 11 years ago. It was 11 years ago. Hey, Bubby. Oh, she says you're scared. I got you.
It's our third guest, our actual guest.
But because I do. She's gonna get in my lap.
Yeah. Let's pause.
No,
and
she's
put
okay.
her out.
No, it's all right.
Sure?
It's all right. Yeah, we'll keep going.
She's a fucking brat.
It's okay. Huh, good you. But I was like really, like, it's funny she did that because I'm like shaking with anxiety.
That dog has been through everything with me, and she is like, she definitely could have been an emotional, whatever support dog, because she knows when shit's up, bro. Like when I'd like get loaded, shoot up, and she would just like be so weird with me, man. She would just look at me like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah. She knew there was something wrong.
That's much coffee.
Hey, get out of there. That's not good. You'll poop a lot if you drink that. But yeah, man. I mean, that was I'm sure there was some small traumas before, like you said, with with my dad and stuff. Yeah. There was a tumultuous relationship with my parents at that time, and most of it was me. So I can't recognize those as traumatic experiences, but I remember that was the first time that I felt like genuine fear, and it involved a female. And that was the first time that I realized that a female did have a lot of control over my life. They could say something, and it could dramatically alter my life. And so I changed the way I was behaving for a little while to try and avoid any of that stuff.
What do you think that is for you? Because I can relate a lot, and I know the root cause of it. And my therapist in treatment told me, and it's like, and my mom listens to this, and I hope she doesn't get offended by this, but my mom moved away, and she gave us the choice to move with her, but we decided to stay. But she moved away when I was young, when I was 10.
Mm-hmm. And
so I always had this deep yearning for a female role in my life. And then I also, as a kid, because of my parents' divorce, I remember as a kid, at 12, dude, just all I ever wanted was just a romantic partner, not objectively or misogynistically. I just wanted to be in love with someone and have that special love, and it has driven the majority of my adult life. And I've gotten into the wrong relationships with the wrong people, and I've been codependent, and I've done things just to have that person in my life that I don't really want, so I know where that's for me, but what do you think the root of that is for you?
I think it's probably pretty similar, except
because your mom's great. I know your mom. I met your mom several times.
Right.
Hug her neck. She's awesome.
And I think it's the opposite of what happened with you. Is this that my mother was so consistently there, and it kind of seems weird because it was one of my favorite parts. Am I still in the frame? I'm leaning way over.
Yeah, you are. Okay. The mic's kind of blocking your face, but
well, we have to compensate.
She's so puppy. Needy, bro.
Oh, but my mom, one of my favorite parts of my story, don't lick the mic. Don't lick it. One of my favorite parts to telling my story is whenever, at the beginning, and it's always to kind of loosen everybody up. And it loosens me up too.
Yeah.
Gets everybody a little laugh. I kind of, when people get up and tell their stories and they're doing a comedy bit, I'm that's cool, but let's hear what's really going on.
Right.
So I keep it to that one thing where it's I'm going to make this small, minor joke at the beginning, get everybody loosened up, loosen myself up, and it has to do with my mom and the codependency that I had as a child with my mom.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I used to wear this little locket with her picture in it.
Oh.
and I was just extremely attached to my mom, you know. But then once I hit puberty and realized that, like, it wasn't cool to be your mama's boy, you know, then that shifted into I need a female companion, because that was, you know, that's what all I've ever known since I was a kid, was having an extremely loving and compassionate and very attentive mother, you know. And now it feels like I need that even as an adult, but I need it in a partner, you know. So it's kind of the opposite. When you said that, it's the first thing I realized.
This whole conversation is so Freudian.
What is that? I don't know what that means.
Well, he believed that, like,
fruity. I thought you said Floridian.
No, Freudian.
From Florida?
Like,
Florida?
He believed that all men wanted to sleep with their mothers, and then, you know, the Oedipus complex and all that. And it's, you know, it's kind of like. I
mean, there's probably some truth to it, because I mean that's the first person that you interact with in every capacity. You know what I mean? And if, like, for you, if you didn't have that, it's like, you know, evolutionarily, you know that that's supposed to be the way it is. And even if it didn't happen that way, like, you know, your body knows, you know, you know what you're supposed to have. And, you know, I would speculate in saying, like, that's why you wanted that so bad from the beginning. And the same thing for me is, like, I did have it, but then once, you know, like I said, once I became an adult at, you know, 15, 16 years old, whatever, I sought that in females, you know, and I wanted to have that female connection in a socially acceptable place. You know what I mean?
Let me know if you relate to this, but I'm really starting to realize that, like, I don't feel like, and I'm really going to try to work through this over this next year. This is like a big thing I have to work through, but I realize that I don't feel valuable, or I don't feel like I have any worth, or that my life has meaning without some kind of romantic partner in it. And it's like, you know, I don't ever want to get to the place in my life where I don't need love, because that's dark. That's just as dark as the other way, right? But I need to get to the place where it's like, I know I have value and worth, and, like, it's not derived from, like, having, you know, a romantic partner, you know. And I don't know if you can relate to that at all.
Absolutely. I can't remember where I'd heard it one time, but it was probably some Instagram post or something silly like that. But I remember hearing or reading something along the lines of, like, a relationship should never be 50-50. It should always be 100%, 100%. And then that way, no matter what, you're only adding to your partner's life. And I remember talking about that, you know, with my previous partner, the person we're talking about now, and bringing that up and saying that, and genuinely feeling that and believing that and thinking that that's where I was at, when in reality I was too empty to be providing 100%. You know what I mean? She was adding a lot to my life, and I thought I was doing the same, but in reality, like, I was not whole yet. You know, and I'm not yet. I still am not whole yet.
Yeah.
But that was what you're saying is, like, at least what I hear is, like, being able to be 100% in yourself, and then whenever you do find that person, there is no give and take. It's all give. You know, like, you're not taking anything from that person, and they're not taking anything from you. You know what I mean? You're adding to their life, and they're adding to yours.
I completely agree with that. Nobody should complete you. You should be a whole person on your own.
Yeah.
And anything less than that, it's never gonna really work. You know, it's always gonna be transactional in a sense, because you need this person to complete a part of you that you can't without them, and that's not what being a grown ass person is about, and that's not, especially not being, like, you know, what my higher power really wants of me. And I agree, like, same thing with me, like, you know, with my relationship, I could sit here and blame her for what she did. She did hurt me really fucking bad, and I'm not over it yet, and a lot of tears have been shed, a lot of songs have been written, you know, but at the end of the day, I have my part in it, and I wasn't, you know, I thought I was at this place where I was like, yeah, I'm ready to get married. Like, I have 2 jobs, I go to school, I have almost 4 years sober, I have all these things, but, like, really, that's only on the surface. Like, but, you know, in the center of me, like, there's a lot of things that I did in that relationship that caused it to fail, you know, and there's a lot of defects that I ignored in myself, and I let them kind of run the show, and, like, all this stuff. But
no, I find myself, you know, in the same position. Those accolades are only get us into the relationship. You know what I mean? But once you're there, that, at least for me, that those accolades meant nothing. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure that was, I'm sure she thought those were great things about me. I know that she was always very proud of me and very happy and excited about the things that I was doing. But once it gets down to the nitty gritty, like the real day to day, like person who I am, like, when I am dealing with stress and trauma, I'm not a good person. Like those accolades don't mean anything. You know what I mean?
You have the same amount of recovery as day one in those moments.
Yeah. Because around the situation that happened is, and I'm not saying this to make an excuse, but I've lost a couple family members to this virus. And the night that this all really came to a head.
You've lost a bunch of family members in the last few months, huh?
Yeah, there's been that I can think of
two
just
from
off
the virus,
top.
And then your uncle, and then
there's just this year there's been three, three deaths in 2020, and they were all people that I knew. They were people that I interacted with. They were.
I like how it's 2021, but it still feels like a fucked up 2020. Fuck.
That year will leave a lasting imprint.
Yeah.
But the night that it happened, it was like my aunt had died, and I I had known her my whole life. I remember interacting with her a bunch, and it wasn't like they were close. What my biggest concern was, like, she's pretty much the same age as my dad, and like their health was pretty similar. Like, it just brings out a lot of emotions in me to know that happened. And then that was the night where I used that as like an excuse to act out. And because I was feeling a lot of emotions, but I realized, looking back at it now, it still wasn't okay, because if I would have done the work, no, I'm not going to say it that way, because that's me bargaining about, my life. Like, if I would have done this, it would be different. Like, that's not the case. Like, I know that if I understood myself like I understood myself now, then I could have handled those emotions much better. You know what I mean? I really think I would have been able to process through that stuff, because all that stuff came to the surface because of other things that were happening. And then whenever the interaction came down to her and I, all that other shit went out the window, there was still some raw emotion there. And that raw emotion came from, that situation that I just talked about with the accusation.
Yeah.
And then the situation, and it's kind of funny. I talked to my daughter's mom on Sunday night, and I made a joke of, like, I'm in therapy because of you. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And she laughed or whatever, and she goes, you know what? She said, I accept some of that responsibility. And I was like, I was completely shocked. I said, what? Like, there's no way, because she's never done that,
Yeah.
And, she told me that she was toxic to me. Like, so there was something, of course, I was probably the more,
right.
Well,
it was your addiction. And
I was in a bad fucking place. But then she accepted some of the rest of the responsibility, and that's when it was like, holy shit, like, this is real.
Right.
Because I'd been kind of working on it in therapy a little bit, and then whenever she recognized it and took a little bit of that responsibility, it was just like, holy shit, that was all that stuff that happened, like, really is, I'm carrying it with me every day in different parts of my body physically, and I feel it. And so whenever, like, that situation that night happened with my most recent, significant other, like, I remember feeling this desperation, this chaos, this feeling of uncontrollability. I didn't know who I was anymore. I felt crazy, and I felt like I was losing my fucking mind. And I remember telling her that, and she said, I know how you feel, and I really feel like I'm sorry, because she's been there too. She's felt those emotions, and so she was empathetic with me in the moment. And of course, it didn't help in the moment, but looking back at it now, it's like, it's incredible that she could recognize where I was at and not just tell me that I was crazy, but say, listen, I know where you're at. I know how you feel, and I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can fucking do for you right now.
If you're saying that your baby mama copped to her part and everything, and said that she takes some responsibility for what you've been through, what you're going through, and that y'all's relationship was toxic at times.
Mm-hmm.
So
pretty much the whole time. Yeah, it was just surprising that she had anything to say about it. But, and you were saying something, I don't know if it got recorded, about, like, having some sort of, like, responsibility for this happening, Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, through everything I just went through, I'm able to see my part and everything. I'm able to see why the relationship failed and what I did wrong and what I need to work on, so. in that sense, like it's a blessing. Like I have the opportunity to grow and get better, you know, and as somebody in recovery, like I have to take those opportunities, right? That's like why I have the things I do have today, and why I'm where I'm at is because like I was given an opportunity, I took advantage of it, and I grew. And I still, you know, in a lot of ways, I'm still the person I was in my addiction. I don't have the drugs in my system. I gained a little weight, but I still, like, you know, it doesn't matter that I have almost 4 years. You know, like, the defects are still there, and they can come out fucking quick, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, it's funny, too, because I've been to a meeting. I haven't gone as much this week, but the first week I went every day. And every time I was in the meeting, God just immediately spoke to me through somebody's share or the topic or in my own share. And I realized so much, man. Like, you know, for the majority of my relationship of 2 years, like, I was running on self-will. Like, I never even, you know, I never even prayed about the relationship. Like, I would pray for her, and I would pray, like, you know, if we were arguing, I'd be like, God, fix this. Like, help us to fix this or whatever. But I never asked God, like, should I be with this person?
Is this
you know?
right? Yeah. Is this your will?
Yeah, I was living on self-will, and because of that, a lot of things went wrong, and like my codependency skyrocketed to like a grotesque point. I mean, there was the past couple months, there was a couple fights we had where I started having like suicide ideation, and just because we were fighting, and that's not who I want to be. And I know I did a good job of like not telling her that, because like I've been that person before. Like, if you break up with me, I'm gonna kill myself, you know. And I didn't tell her about, you know, having thoughts like that, but I had them, and like that's fucking scary, and that's like not who I want to be, and that's not what God wants for me. I know that much, you know what I mean? Like, it's not just like he obviously doesn't want me to kill myself, but like he doesn't want me to be thinking about it, you know. And it's, you know, I could sit here and blame her for her stuff, and you know, but that doesn't help, and I have a part in it, and I know that I have to get this shit figured out, man. I have to get this shit figured out while I'm 28. You know, yeah, I wanted to be married by now. I want kids so fucking bad. This past weekend I cried because I saw a TikTok of a baby and his dad walking into the house and the baby reacting, and I started fucking bawling because I want that so bad. Like, and I, you know, the beautiful thing about the relationship I was just in for 2 years, and she had a kid, was like, you know, I got to experience what I want in life. You know, I know I want to pursue this career of counseling and stuff. I want to pursue music still, but like, I know for sure I want kids, and I didn't know that before. I didn't know if I was good around kids, and through that and dating her, and not only just her kid, but her friends' kids and people that we spent time with, like I realized like, I'm actually pretty good with kids. Like I love being around kids. I want to have kids. I want to be a dad. I want to know what that experience is like, you know. And so there's a lot of like, I'm still hurt, you know. I'm still going through the pain and the grief and the loss of a relationship, especially of the person I thought I would marry and I thought I'd have kids with, you know. But I've come to this place where, and I don't feel it every waking moment, but I'm just trying to like have some gratitude that I got to be in love for 2 years and experience what it was like to, like, you know, not really necessarily have a kid, because I wasn't trying to replace her dad or anything, but to have that in my life, to have that little person who's excited to see me and like who just asks me the weirdest questions, and, you know, like, and I saw her, like, you know, not being able to read too good when we started dating. By the time I left, like, she could read a whole book, like a whole bedtime story, you know, and like just little things like that just showed me I'm grateful for that experience, you know. Like I said, I'm hurt, and I could hold on to that hurt if I want to, or I could just choose to like think about and what's funny is my friend sent me a clip of Joe Rogan saying something like this, and it really helped. And he was talking about like, don't think about the bad times. Don't think about how it ended. Think about how you once really loved this person and you got to experience that love. And like, if you hold on to that, you'll be better off, and you won't be so angry, and you won't be so bitter. Like, you can just appreciate for what it was. Yeah, maybe it didn't last as long as you wanted. Maybe it didn't end the way you wanted, but you can be like happy that you went through it. You know, and what is that saying? It's better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all. And like, that's really true. And I'm trying to hold on to that, you know. Still hurting. Some days are harder than others, you know. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you feel that way, but
yeah, no, I definitely, I've had those same thoughts of like, of how beautiful the relationship was, and there's times, because it was very short, you know. It wasn't, I didn't get the opportunity to have like a 2-year long relationship, and I think I'm more grateful for that because I don't want to say that it's any less easy or any less difficult.
Yeah.
Like it's not at all easier to go through this.
I honestly think that because it was so short, like those first 6 months to a year for almost all relationships are so happy.
Yeah.
It's all the good stuff, all the great sex, all the like learning about the person, the late night talks after you make love, like all that shit. And like, you know, it's almost harder because you didn't go through anything bad. Like I can look back at 2 years and like remember like, oh yeah, that one time we fought, or that one time I was an asshole, or that one time she was mean to me. You know, and I can be like, yeah, fuck her or whatever, you know, but you don't get that.
No.
You all you have is mostly good memories, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, they're primarily good. Like I remember the first time she told me that she loved me.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that runs through my mind a lot. And it's kind of what's kind of wild as I talk about like the memories is that I brought this up to my therapist because it was really concerning to me because it made me question. There was a point about 2 weeks after it ended where I couldn't visualize her face. And I had a hard time like remembering her voice. And like when I first started to feel that, I thought, oh my God, are these feelings not real? Was this like an infatuation? Was this something that I didn't think it was? Like, was this did I blow this out of proportion? Because now all of a sudden, like I can't recall these things. And I started to get really confused and upset by that because I know I would sit there and like battle with myself and say, oh, you got to be able to remember you love this woman deeply. You have to be able to remember her face. And then I'd go back and look at pictures kind of to refresh that. And I brought that up to my therapist, and he goes, man, it's not that you don't love her. It's that your body is reacting to a traumatic experience, and it's protecting your mind. There's a divide between your mind and your body. Yeah. And your body is doing everything it can to protect your mind because right now that's too much for you to handle. That image, that grief that you're feeling over this person is too fucking much, and your body is protecting you in every way by forgetting. Like whenever I try to visualize, even right now I'm trying to visualize her face, I can see her hair, but I can't see anything else. You know what I mean? And it disturbs me, you know, a little bit. And it really is difficult for me to like see her face, but I still remember all the moments where I before I told her I loved her, I would look at her and I would just like smile, and she'd say, what? And I'd just be like, I'm grateful for you. You know, I remember feeling that gratitude of having her in my life. And then the first night she told me that she loved me, we were laying in bed and I was about to fall asleep. I remember I was laying on her chest or like on her stomach, and I was just kind of like playing with her hair, and like, you know, we were just having a nice little moment. Right. And she just kind of said, I love you. And I remember picking my head up and saying, what? Like, what did you just say? And because I had already said it like a couple of days before, and she just kind of got like weird about it, you know, and I think she wanted to say it, but she just didn't, you know, want to freak out. It was a lot. It was a lot of emotions, a lot of fast in our relationship. And it was just like that moment is seared into my mind. Right. You know what I mean? Like I remember the way that I felt. I remember everything that was happening in that moment, but I still can't visualize her face in that. You know what I mean? And it's really profound, and it's kind of interesting to me to know that, especially now that I'm not freaking out about it. Like I know that the feelings are still there, they're valid, they're still represented in a million different ways, but my body is just truly protecting me in that way. Crazy. It's disturbing, man. But kind of what you were talking about with like this period of time that we're in. Like I said earlier, I've gotten the opportunity to just talk to a lot of people about this, and of course, like I keep it pretty relatively surface level, but there's a couple of people that I've met throughout my life that I can just really just dump a bunch of shit on them, and they know how to act, they know how to support me, they know how to give me feedback, and it's people that I trust. And it's so interesting because there's this guy that I met at my gym 3 years ago when I first started going there. And at the time, he was divorced and he had a son, and he was going through some of his own stuff. And I remember, like, at that time, I was in a really good place. So we would have a lot of conversations about his stuff. And he's extremely religious. And it's funny because he's this big yoked dude. Like, he used to do steroids real heavy, and, like, he's really fit. He's one of those guys at the gym that you don't really talk to because he looks so intimidating. Looks serious. Yeah, and he's very serious when he's in the gym. He's very dedicated to his physical fitness, but there would be times where we, like, for whatever reason, we just started having a conversation one day, and then the conversations went from like, hey, what's up, like, what are you doing today, like, to like, how's your family? And then he started telling me about the things that he was going through, and kind of went through some stuff like right in front of me. You know what I mean? Like with other people there, like in the gym, and it was just like this tumultuous, like his life just unfolded, and it came down to the end. You know what I mean? And I remember him telling me, like, I'm struggling, and he was, like I said, he was extremely religious, so he leaned on God a lot.
Yeah.
And he got through it, and we were having this conversation last night, and I was there to work out, he was there to work out. We ended up spending 2 hours in the free weight section pissing everybody off because we just sat on 2 benches and talked for almost 2 straight hours.
Wow.
And one of the biggest things that I took away, there was a couple things that I took away from that conversation, but one of the ones that I took away was to be very extremely grateful for this period of grief and depression that I'm in now. And that's kind of counterintuitive to everything that I know, but the way that he explained it to me, because everything that happened in his life got him to the point where now he's rekindled the relationship with his wife, and they've had another son, and they have this beautiful family again. But it took all of that 2 years of just destruction and depression for him to learn who he was, and to like we're talking about, find his whole self, right? And so having that conversation with him last night gave me faith that there is there is a potential for me to be able to do that too. Whether it be with this person that I'm in love with now, or whether it be with another person, or whether it be just on my own, where I'm just fully in love with myself. Whatever it is, the fact that I saw him, 2 years ago, or about a year ago, was at his deep, darkest, I saw him in that place and saw him struggling, and watched him crawl out of it, just claw his way out of it to where he is now, and it's a beautiful place. But what he told me is dude, don't forget this. And he called it the thorn in my side, and it's a biblical reference, right? He's don't ever forget that thorn that's in your side right now. Keep that with you.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's so counterintuitive to everything I know to heal and move on and find that happier place. But I think that being able to remind myself about this period of my life forever is going to be extremely important for me to go forward, because I get so good at forgetting about what's happened. And that's why I'm in this situation now. I forgot about all the trauma that I had experienced, all of the grief that I had experienced, all this stuff that I had gone through, and that got me to this toxic place. You know what I mean? I was able to kind of just push it to the side, suppress it, get over it, and move on to where I am now. And all of a sudden, here I am acting out on those behaviors from 10 years ago.
Right.
And so him telling me that really kind of highlighted that for me. What else was it that we talked about? Because there's a couple different things that it was just like, oh my gosh, it was eye-opening to me to be able to sit there and hear that from somebody. And he's not in recovery. He's not, he does, I think he drinks maybe socially or something like that, but he's just like a normal dude that's just struggled with a lot as well. And hearing that from him really kind of it gave me another spark of faith that I needed, to be able to get through this period of my life. Because while I know that I need to heal and I need to process these things thoroughly and understand them to their full extent, I don't ever want to forget them. You know what I mean? Because just like you said with, God doesn't want me to kill myself. God doesn't want me to be gone from this earth. God also doesn't, at least for me, doesn't want me to forget. Because I feel like that's one of the reasons that all this stuff has happened, is that it's an opportunity for me to be in a good place, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and then go through something very difficult. And as a mature adult, understand that difficulty is going to bring something more down the line. And it was just profound, man. It was something I never really expected to hear. I never thought that message was going to come from some unknown place like that. Right. But I'm grateful that it did, because, now looking back at the last month or so, it's been very difficult for me. I had the suicidal ideation. I had the difficulties that most deal with, and in these kind of dark times, right? And I mean, my therapist even had to ask the questions like, "Do you have a plan?" He had to do the
safety check,
safety plan with me, and it was like, listen, man, they're fleeting. They're not, they're not anything that I'm concerned about right now. Like, this is something that I can get through, but they're there, and I'd be lying if I said they weren't. And thankfully, I those have kind of subsided some, But that grief is still there. That feeling of like remorse and regret is still there. But after having that conversation with him last night, it's started to kind of diminish, you know, because it's not about what has happened. It's about what's going to happen if I keep this with me. If I keep that thorn in my side, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I make sure that that's still there. And I remember what the other point he made, and it was funny because I was showing him that video that we made.
Yeah.
You know, we made that video, and we were talking about the relationship, and he was asking me, you know, like about how things were when we were together, and I don't really know where he was going with it, but he was just kind of like wanting to talk, you know what I mean, trying to learn everything about what had happened. And I said, man, you know, our relationship was based on a healthy motive to help other people, and we just wanted, like, we'd have these deep conversations about wanting what our lives wanted to look like, what we wanted our lives to look like, and how that every experience that we had together, apart, whatever it was so that we could take that to other people, you know, and we could learn from our own lives, remember those experiences, and help other people. And so that was one of the motivations for that video that we made.
Yeah.
And I showed him the video, and I haven't watched it in a long time,
Right.
you know, and I don't think I can.
Yeah.
But you know, the gym was loud. There was music playing on the overhead, and he was, you know, holding it to his ear, and I could hear her voice in a couple different pieces of it. And a lot of that emotion came back to me that washed over me, because it was an emotional time for both of us. It was difficult for me to make that video in a couple different capacities. And I told him whenever he stopped watching it, I said, man, I almost started crying just hearing little bits and pieces of that. And he looked at me and he said, he got kind of serious with me. He's never really he's not one of those guys that will challenge.
Yeah.
But he challenged me, you know, for the first time in the 2.5, 3 years that I've known him. He said, you may not want to hear this, but I think you've idolized her.
Ooh.
And I said, holy shit.
Ooh.
And I immediately got, you know, responsive.
Yeah.
And I
defensive.
still had pre-workout in my system. Like, I'm sitting there holding a 40-pound barbell. Like, no, I fucking didn't. Like, there's no way. And then, but in a split second, I realized, holy shit. Like, this isn't this man talking to me. This is something more than this. Like, there's somebody speaking through him right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because he's not, like I said, he's not the type that is going to do that. He's much more the type that's going to coddle me and tell me that things are going to be okay. And so that was the first time where and I could see it in his face where he was like, I don't want to say this, but he said it anyway. So I could tell that it was much more than him speaking in that moment. And he said, do you think you idolized her? And I paused for a minute, and I was like, holy shit. Like, I don't know. And, you know, of course, like I said, he's very biblical. So he's speaking from a biblical sense. Like, you know, we are not to have false idols.
Right.
And he started explaining it in that way. And of course, I was still a little defensive because of because of my, you know, I guess I still have some tension surrounding that. But as he explained it, the more I relaxed and the more I understood that there was a lot of truth to that. You know, it coincides with the concept that I had talked about previously about, you know, I put all of my eggs in her basket. And I didn't just do that. I put all of my eggs in her basket, and then I put our relationship on a pedestal. Yep. You know what I mean? It became everything to me. That became my higher power, and it became my idol. You know, everything that I was doing was meant for that relationship. Like, I was dedicated, and not in the healthy sense. Like, I was dedicated above and beyond where I should have been. You know what I mean? Because I believe there's like a spectrum of, like, this is where you need to be to fully dedicate yourself and give everything you can to your partner. But once you go beyond that, it doesn't help. You become toxic, and you become, you know, harmful to the relationship. And I was well beyond that. You know, I had put that relationship, that person, on a pedestal, and even like, she would ask me that, like, do you think maybe you're like putting me on a pedestal, like you're becoming codependent and stuff like that? And it's like, fuck, dude. If I would have just listened then, you know what I mean? Maybe I should have, you know, maybe I could have some understanding, but, you know, it took what it took to get me to where I'm at. And, you know, it was really hard for me to understand that. It was really hard for me to recognize that, but I think he could see the happiness and the pride that I had in showing him that video and saying, listen, like, this is the type of things we created together. This is one of the reasons that I love this person, you know, because of the shared experiences, the shared motivations for helping others. And all of that's well and good. That's all great intentions. But if I'm not doing it, like, solely for that, if I'm not you know, if I'm not searching for more beyond that relationship, then I was hurting myself, and I was ultimately hurting her.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's one of the things that I regret most.
Yeah, man. When you were talking the idolizing them, like I straight up did that, and I didn't even realize that till just now. Like, that's why what she, you know, and I haven't said what she did, and I won't, but I'll just say for anyone listening that's curious, like, she broke my trust. She was dishonest about something that I wasn't expecting. You know, for some people it wouldn't be cheating. For me, I first thought it was cheating. It kind of feels that way. You know, it hurt me like I got cheated on. You know, but it hurt so bad because in my mind I had put her as this person that she wasn't, and that who she probably could have never really lived up to. I said this recently. I said, like, I judged her by my own merits. I judged her by my own life. Like, you know, I have and it's I think it's a thing that people in long-term recovery deal with, is like, we get an ego about where we are. Like, yeah, I've got 4 years sober. I've done all this self-reflection. I've fixed a lot of issues in my life. I've got all this clean time. I've sponsored all these people. I've got these jobs. I'm in school and all this stuff, you know, and like, I judged her accordingly to that, to a standard that I hold myself to. And really, that's the only person I should hold up to, but I didn't, you know, and that's why it hurt so bad. And she even said that once when we were arguing and during the breakup, you know, it was like, you were just in love with the idea of me, which is a fucking line from a Barbra Streisand movie, which is so like cliche, but it's not totally wrong, you know. Like, I think I really did love her to the best of my ability. And I, you know, will always love her. And literally, she could call me tonight and be like, I have a flat tire, and I would go change it. You know, that's just the kind of person I am. I fucking did that for my ex that I was with for 4 years. I mean, not the flat tire thing, but when she called me, I'd answer. You know, I still do. But, you know, like I said, I loved her to the best of my ability. But if I'm not the best version of myself, then me loving them to the best ability isn't the true 100%. If I'm not 100% of me, then my love is not 100%, right? It's only however much of me that there actually is, you know? And so, like... And
how much of that is selfish love? You know what I mean? It's more, like... Because when you're saying that, all I can think about is, like... I know that I'm, you know, probably like 50, 60% of my whole self, right? Yeah. Because of all the things that I haven't dealt with. Like, I've dealt... Like you said, we dealt with so much shit in in this point of our recovery. We've remedied so many problems, but they were the obvious problems. It's these other issues that are like hiding. They're kind of just like, they're still there, but they don't present themselves until they, you know, they have to be brought up with something else, right? So when you said that, all I could think about was like, I was at like, say 60% being generous for myself, right? Yeah. But I was loving her to the best of my abilities, which was only that 60%. But a lot of that, me going above and beyond and trying to love her more, was so that I could get something back and feel that extra 40% that I was missing. Like all of a sudden, that love became extremely selfish. Yep. You know what I mean? It started out so selfless, and I loved her so much, and then all of a sudden, it was like, she is doing something for me that no drug, no drink, no other person can do. You know what I mean? I can look at. You know, I've had interactions with other people since then, and I don't feel anything. There's no connection with another human being that I felt like that I had with that person. You know what I mean?
No, I get it.
And I think a lot of that I'm realizing through those experiences since then is that all of that void that's there now, I was just trying to fill with her love. Yeah. And I was doing the same thing as you. It was like expecting the same out of her that I was giving, but I wasn't giving enough. You know what I mean? I had nothing to give. I was trying to pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, pour from an empty cup. When you were talking just now, and this is a codependent trait I realized I have, and I know it's something I need to work on. And I hope I can get to the point. So this is something I do in a relationship, especially in this last one. It's mostly in this last one. I mean, I don't think it's ever been as bad as now, but I would do all these things for her, right? Mm-hmm. You know, help her financially a little bit, or buy her flowers, or help her with her house chores or stuff. And like, yes, like I'd be telling myself, like, this is what you do when you love somebody. You do things for them. But I'd keep a record of it, and I'd keep a record of it because I was like, oh well, I've done all these things for you. Now you can't leave me. Like that wasn't a conscious thought. But I can look at it now and say, like, that was the subconscious motive of why I did those things and why I went beyond and why it hurts so bad that you hurt me like this is because I thought I did all the things right to control you and keep you in my life. And that's not, that's not God's love. That's not, that's not really true love. I mean, I don't, like I said, I think I really loved her to the best of my ability. I was totally infatuated with her, but there's a certain level of codependence when I did these things, and I literally kept a record of it in my mind, and like literally threw it in her face how much money I sent her last year, like when we were breaking up, and that's pretty fucked up, And it's because it's codependent. I just like I do all these things for you, and you can't leave me. You know what I mean? And that's it's dark.
No, yeah, I'm the same. As you're saying that, I'm realizing that I probably did the same thing.
Yeah.
In that short period of time, like I was doing everything that I possibly could to make sure that she knew that I loved her. Like, and it was, yeah, sure. At the time, in the moment, it felt like that's what I was supposed to be doing. Just like you said, like I knew that I wanted this person to know, I wanted her to know that I was truly in love with her. And I really do, like, especially now, like I've been in relationships before where it's like, I think I like this person a lot. I maybe love them. And then they go away, and it's like, okay, maybe I didn't. You know what I mean? Like, I realized after the fact that it's like, okay, there was a lot of infatuation. There was a lot of codependency. There was a lot of selfishness in that I was just getting something out of that person, right? They were feeling a void that I had, where this person still did that. But even after this period of time, a little over a month has gone by, the pattern is not the same as it ever has been for me now. Like, it's like now I can look back and say, holy shit, like this is real. Because even through all this stuff, I haven't spoke to her in a long time, that feeling is not even diminished a tiny little bit. You know what I mean? But I know that I did the exact same thing with, getting her flowers and trying to spend time with her and making sure that I was being the best boyfriend there ever was. And it was much more like profound in this relationship because she was vocal about saying like she's never been loved this way. She unfortunately has had bad relationships in the past, and before the last couple of weeks of our relationship, I was like this novel thing. I was this person that came along and didn't do all the things that had been done to her before. I was attentive, I was loving, I was giving, I was generous, I was all these things, right? And then all of a sudden, when shit got hard in my life, I flipped. You know what I mean? And I didn't stop doing any of the things that I was doing, but I think I had kept that score of like, listen, like I did so much for you over these last couple of months. Like now I need somebody there for me. And it's like I had a balance that I could cash out,
Right.
And it does feel really sickening and disgusting to know that now, because it really,
I did the same shit, dude. I literally felt myself getting resentful at like, look at all these things I've done for you, and you've never, you've like stayed at my house 3 times, and like all this shit. Like I was holding on to all these things that are like that's not what you do when you really love somebody. Like you love them unconditionally. Like it doesn't matter the deeds or the amounts or the actions, like, you know what I mean? And so I don't know if that's codependency. It seems that way a little bit, but it's also like self-seeking behaviors from our addiction or whatever. It's like I have a lot of attention, self-seeking behaviors from being a child of an alcoholic, fucking musician, addict. Like I just I need attention, like and so it's like self-seeking behavior to like hold on to some of that stuff, and like when you don't get what you gave, you're like, well, what the fuck, you know what I mean? And that's not, I don't want to be that person. I want to be the person that gives and loves unconditionally and doesn't expect anything in return, and like I hope I can get there. I don't want to be that person. I want to love unconditionally, and like and it's something you said to me, and it's funny because it's so funny that we're going through this together, because it's like I got to help you fucking saved my life the night I called you, like straight up. I wanted to get high so bad. In 4 years I've never wanted to be so high, and but something you said to me, and it's, man, I've been holding on to it, is like we've been given the gifts of desperation again, and I feel that way now. Like I haven't prayed this much in the last 2 weeks. I haven't meditated this much in the last 2 weeks, and almost all of my, that's not true, but I haven't in a long time like I have been lately, and I'm still going through it. And I blew up on a guy at work today, and he needed to hear it, but I could have been nicer about it. And I know that like I I blew up on him because I'm just like hurting right now, and I just like took it out on him. And it was bad. I feel so bad. He probably hates my guts now. I apologized 3 times and he hasn't said anything back. So I literally like yelled at him to shut the fuck up because I don't know. I don't want to go into detail, but I just made a mess today, and it's, you know, because I'm hurting. And like, and what's funny is I woke up early, I drank coffee, I meditated this morning, and then 2 hours later I'm like screaming at a guy to shut the fuck up. Like, so I know, and that's just part of being hurt, I guess. But I don't know. It's like I've been given the gift of desperation. Like, I have the opportunity now to fix this shit, so I can find the person who like I can love unconditionally and give them what they deserve, and I get what I deserve back, you know. And it's not transactional, and it's not according to scale or according to plan. Like, it's just God's love in its purest form, you know. And like I said earlier, man, like I spent the last 2 years running on self-will. And every time I've gone to a meeting in the last 2 weeks, it was exactly what I needed to hear in that moment. Like turning over my will, like the insanity, unmanageability of it all, of like the codependency part of it. And then like the fear, like living in fear of like, well, fear if I'm always going to be alone, if I'm going to die alone, if I'll never find somebody. And like, God, you know, like my higher power doesn't want me to be in fear. Like you know what I mean? So it's just funny. I've been given the gift of desperation again. I have like a hunger for not just like recovery and helping people again, but like to grow and get better from this. And like, you know, I had writer's block for the last couple of months. I couldn't write any songs for Indigo. Like I would pick up my guitar and I would just like play like an old riff or something again. And I just couldn't. And I've written like 5 songs in the last 2 weeks. So it's just like, I don't know. It sucks and I hate it. Like, I hate feeling the way I've been feeling. I hate fucking crying, and it seems like I can't cry unless I'm, like, talking to somebody about it. Like, Parker called me the other night, and I just fucking bawled on the phone with him, dude. I felt so pathetic, like, you know, and I cried in the car with you when you came and got me or whatever, and, like, I cried in front of a sponsee the other day. I was like, this is not good. I'm supposed to be like this rock, you know, but I try to, and the whole reason I wanted to talk about all this, and like I really hope everybody listening, and I don't know who will hear this as far as, you know, in recovery or not, but like if we can go what we're going through, if we can stay sober through it, you can stay sober through what you're going through. Like for me, this has been one of the hardest things I've ever been through because I felt like I did everything right in the relationship, and I can see my part in it now. But at the very first few days, the first 3 days, I was literally sick. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. Like I was so fucked up emotionally. I've never been so hurt, and I've never felt so wronged, you know. And I can see now that, like, of course I have my part in that, and like it's never 100% anybody's fault, right? You know. But if I can stay sober through that, like whatever you're going through, you can stay sober through it too. You know.
No, that's kind of wild that you say that right now, because this guy that I was talking to at the gym last night that I've talked about just now, he said something real similar to that, in the fact that he said, you know, he's always extremely humble, and he told me, he said, look at all the things that I went through, that you watched me go through. He said, if I could get through that and find this peace and this gratitude, and then all of it, within weeks or months of finding that peace and that love for myself, I was gifted my life back. You know, if I can go through that, he said, I'm a weak man. And he looked me right in the eyes and he said, you can do it too. And it was just emotional to know that, like, this person that I have this like vague connection with, that we don't see each other, like maybe once every month or twice a month or something like that. It's so infrequent, but he could see in that moment that I needed to know, he needed to hear that. And this was after he kind of got, you know, firm with me about the ideology or the idolization. He told me that, you know, and that's one thing that I need to like be vocal about now, because like I think those of us that get a certain amount of recovery and people that kind of start to resume normal life get looked at that way of like, oh, they're just back to normal. You know what I mean? There's just this normal semblance of life again. And especially in the position that I'm in with the company, and I've got these guys that look at me in a certain way and know that like I'm just going to be there consistently. And it's the same way that I looked at the leadership before me, you know, that I looked up to. It's like they looked invincible. It was like all of a sudden they didn't need any of the stuff that I needed at that time. And that's not true. you know, I when he told me that, I thought, man, if only you knew how weak I was.
Yeah.
Like I feel so weak. But I know that I can get through this now. You know, I know that no matter what, through this process of talking about it, through the process of going back through the steps, you know, I'm going back through the steps now. I'm working on my 8th and 9th. And I don't know how that's going to go, you know, because she's one of those people and she's not ready, you know, and I don't blame her. But I don't know how that's going to go. I'm stuck on that. I'm fearful of it. I'm full of all these doubts and fears and all this shame and guilt surrounding that I've been kind of sitting on it for a little bit and like letting myself heal a little bit more before we start diving into that a little bit more. And, you know, my sponsor's been great about it. He supports me in that. But I know that going through this process, and one of the biggest things for me is just being fucking open about it. That's why I wanted to talk to you tonight, because I know that no matter what, like, I'm going to talk about this no matter what. I'm going to talk about this with everybody. Yeah. You know, the guy at the gym, my buddies that I was with, you know, up in Colorado this weekend, the poor woman that tattooed my leg, you know what I mean? She was stuck there for 5 hours and she got to hear a lot about it. And like, all these people that I've encountered over the past, you know, month or two, like, they get to hear about it, you know, and that's been like pivotal for me, because if I hide that stuff, if I keep that inside of me, then I don't get any feedback. I don't get these experiences that I had right now, last night, you know, over the last couple of weeks, where people are telling me things that I need to hear and helping me, you know, dissect what's happened, where I'm wrong. You know, therapy has been incredibly like it's at the very top of my list for this. Like, I don't have insurance. I don't have health insurance, so it's all self-pay, and that it's like, that was my excuse the whole time that she asked me to get therapy. It was like, listen, it's expensive. Like, I'm gonna have to self-pay. You know, it's hard for me to swing that sometimes, and blah blah blah. And it's like, I wish that would have started back then, man, because that's the last thing I think about. Is when the money gets taken out, I don't even look. I don't even care, because it's so fucking profound now. Like, I did EMDR yesterday for the first time.
Parker told me. I'm curious. I've had a couple sponsees that we do it at Fire Sky, and I'm curious how your experience was with it.
Man, we did yesterday, I think he called it resource building, and we didn't speak about any of the trauma yet. We blocked out an hour and a half for next week, because it seems like, you know, there's going to be some pretty profound stuff to talk about. But dude, I've never felt so impacted by an hour of my life. Wow. Like I did that yesterday. Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with just my absolute willingness at this point, because I don't want to feel this way anymore. Yeah. I'm trying not to put expectations on this therapy. I'm trying not to put on expectations on anything. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I'm terrified if it fails, like, I'm gonna end up back where I was. Right. But, you know, I went into that full of fear, and one of the questions he asked was, you know, what's your stress level right now? It's on a scale of 1 to 10. And I said it's about a 5. You know, I was stressed about going into it. I failed to mention it to him before the session, but, you know, going into it, there was a conversation had before at work before I went in there. There's a position open in the clinical part of work. And it was, you know, Parker called and said, do you have any suggestions for this position? And I wasn't even thinking. It wasn't even a thought in my mind, and I blurted out her name. Yeah. And, you know, we had talked about that back when it was open months ago, and then it got filled, and then it was like, you know, this would, you know, I explained the job to her, and she said, yeah, that's exactly what I need right now. She's in between her undergrad and grad school. Like, she's got a semester to just kind of chill, and that's exactly what she needs to do. You know what I mean? To get a little bit of experience, you know, watching the clinical process and stuff like that. And it was like, why the fuck did I just say that? You know what I mean? and I know I said that because she's the best person for the job. Right. You know what I mean? She's extremely organized, blah, blah, blah. I can say all the great things about her that I want. But that's who needs to be there. That's who I think needs to be there. It's a perfect fit for her, perfect fit for the company, blah, blah, blah. But I would have to be working in relatively close proximity to her, you know, and
you'd at least probably, at the very least, have some emails go back and forth between you and her or something like that.
Yeah, talking about, I mean, whenever clients are an issue in IOP, they come to us. Right. You know, thankfully, you know, Parker's there. We have 5 other staff members where I can be out of it if I need to be. Right. And that's probably the way it's going to go if it does happen. But it was that it spiked my stress because I said it and I knew that it was the right thing to say.
And then you're like, oh God, what did I do?
Yeah, it's like, fuck. Because I even told Parker, I was like, I don't have a problem with it. Like I'm okay with it. Like the only thing I'm worried about is whether or not she'd be comfortable with it. And I told him, you know, you're probably gonna have to have this conversation with her because you understand both sides of it right now. You know exactly what's happening. You understand the full story of what's happened. So if she's gonna be comfortable with it at all, I think it needs to come from you. And so he made the call and he offered the job. And I knew it, and I was like, I'm like sitting back there telling myself, don't ask any questions. You don't need to know anything. You don't need to know how she is. You don't need to know what her interest level is. You don't need to know anything about what she said or anything. And I did decent about not asking anything. I just said, did she have any questions about the situation? And he said, no, not really. Like, she talked about the job. And I said, okay, that's all I need to know. I don't want to know anymore, you know. I just want to make sure she's comfortable. That's it. Yeah. Whatever. The rest of it is out of my hands. I need to be away from it as far as I possibly can, but it spiked a lot of stress walking into that therapy session yesterday because it happened like 20 minutes before I went in there. And I failed to mention it to him, but I told him my stress level was about a 5. Like I felt relatively stressed out and, you know, it wasn't anything bad. It was like I wasn't unhappy. I wasn't distressed or anything like that, but I had something on my mind. And he asked me that question, and I told him, and he said, okay, well, just focus on that for a little bit. And then he put the tappers in my hands, and it's just like, they look like little, they look like a key fob for a car. Right. And they got wires on them.
Vibrate.
They go to his, yeah, exactly. They go to his side of the room, and I was sitting there with my hands on either side of my legs, and he walked me through, you know, earth, wind, water, and fire, the elements of us, and you know, helped me get grounded to my feet on the ground, myself in the chair, and he had me close my eyes and just breathe. And we did a couple breathing exercises. And the first couple of minutes, I thought, man, this is not working. Like this is not going to happen for me. And I felt really doubtful, kind of, you know, a little bit annoyed, you know, at one point, because I was like, fuck, man, like I'm gonna disappoint myself and this guy who's spending the time to do this, you know. Yeah. And before I knew it, I was seeing things. You know, like, and there was no imagery, there was no memory. It was just like what he asked me to describe it, and I said it looks like blue clouds or purple clouds, but I don't know if that's even like a description.
Just colors.
It was mostly purple, you know, and it was
so funny. There's purple clouds literally behind you.
Oh yeah, there is. It was similar to that, but it was much less detailed, right? It was just so fuzzy. And I felt so. He asked me. He said, "What do you feel? What are you feeling?" I said, "My feet." What are you feeling about your feet? They're heavy. I couldn't move. You know, at that point, I felt like I was in a hypnotic state. And you know, he kept asking me questions. I don't know how long it went on. I think it was about 40 minutes. I don't know that for sure. Yeah. I had no concept of time in that moment.
Damn, this sounds trippy. Dude.
It was extreme. It was something that I had never experienced before, and I've done drugs. Like it was beyond that, you know. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I really just don't want to feel this way anymore. Yeah. So I conceded 100% wholeheartedly to this process. Right. And you know, the tappers would go off, and it really, at first I was just like, I don't know, you know, these aren't doing anything. Like I didn't feel anything, and then he was asking me some more questions, and finally got towards the end, and then he asked me, "Do you see anything?" And it was weird that he asked me that, because at first I really wasn't seeing much other than the clouds that I had talked about. But right before he asked me that, I started seeing this, what I recognize as like somebody's arm, like going back and forth over like a glazed window. Yeah. And that glazed window was blue or purple, like purple clouds. Yeah. And I said, I don't know, it just looks like there's somebody going back and forth in a window or something, like their arm.
Dude, that's so trippy.
And he asked me, what does it feel like, or what are you feeling about that? And I don't remember exactly what I said, but I think I said fear, because it was giving me like a sense of anxiety when that was happening. And he said, okay, well, let's let that go. I said, let's find something else. And I did. And I was like, whoa, that it was almost so effortlessly, as he said, let it go, it just went away. Huh. And, you know, the tappers were going off at that point, and I think that's what did it, you know, just having some sort of stimulus. I don't know the science behind all this shit, but I know that it fucking worked. Yeah. And then he asked me a couple more questions, and then he asked me what I was seeing then, and I said, it's turned blue. Everything's blue now, and there's light flashing. Every time my left eye wouldn't do it with my left hand, but my right eye, every time my right hand would buzz, there was a flash of blue light that came over my eyelid.
Wow.
And I felt like I was floating. You know, my body was completely relaxed. He had me do a lot of deep breathing, and there was this blue like light that would come across, and all of a sudden I was seeing veins. Whoa. And I don't know what they were. You know, I don't know if it was the inside of my eyelid, but what I remember feeling was like being in a womb. Yeah. And it was trippy as fuck because, and I told him that afterwards.
He's just flashing a light.
Yeah, he's got a little disco ball that he's turning the lights on. Maybe it was. I don't have any idea, man. It was, the entire experience was extremely like trippy.
I haven't met anyone that's done it that hasn't said it was amazing and it helped. I got everyone I've known that's done it has said it was amazing. I have a sponsee that's going through it right now, and it is like I've seen him been able to relax, and he's got a lot going on. He's been in treatment pretty much for 4 months. Like he left, had a thing, went back, and he is like he's just very calm and relaxed now, and he's not as worried as he was a few months ago, you know. And that's a lot of people, everyone I've known that's done it, it's helped. So I'm really curious about.
Yeah, I'm hoping that as we progress through the process that I see some results like that. You know what I mean? I can definitely say just after the first session, I feel a lot more relaxed. I was exhausted after that. I remember he said, okay, we'll come back to the room. We're done with this part of it. Come back to the room. And I opened my eyes, and he looked at me like kind of like a little bit concerned, because I guess I just had this expression on my face that was just shocked. And I don't know how long it took me to come back. I have no idea. It felt like a long time, but even because at one point in the question portion of it, he asked me a question and I couldn't talk. I couldn't, because at one point I was like trying to like even understand what I was seeing to be able to say it. But then I got to the middle part of it, and it wasn't that I couldn't find the words. It was that I couldn't physically move. I couldn't even like use my voice to say anything. And it took me a while to be able to even project my voice from my mouth to say whatever it is what I said. I don't remember what I said now. Yeah. But it was this overwhelming sense of calm that it was so deep that I was unable to speak for a little bit. So whenever he told me to come back to the room, I don't know how long I sat there, because I didn't want to, man. I didn't want to come back out of that. I didn't want to come back to Earth, you know? And when I did, it was just like this overwhelming feeling of like, what the fuck just happened? And he said, because he's in recovery as well, he goes, you know, those of us that are in recovery are, you know, us addicts and alcoholics, this is a feeling that sometimes we're not comfortable with. And I said, I'm overly comfortable with it. I don't want to leave this. Like, this is like a sense of peace that I've never felt. And so I'm really excited to see how it progresses and to see how it develops, like with the trauma that I've dealt with, because it's all around relational trauma. You know, it's going to be, you know, having to do with that rape allegation. It's going to have to do with my daughter's mother and all of because I think that's where a lot of my insecurities come from. You know, a lot of those fears and stuff, they come from that tumultuous relationship. It was 3 years of back and forth and constant leaving and abandonment issues and, you know, manipulation on both sides. And it was just a really, really tumultuous relationship. And I've seen a lot of the characteristics that I had back then come out now in this most recent relationship. And so, like I said, I don't want to have any expectations for being able to completely get rid of those things. But I'm really interested to see how I react to, you know, somebody walking out of my life again, and see what that feeling is. Because even now, just saying those words, I visualize her walking out my front door, you know, and it used to bring me a lot of anxiety. And even after that one session and having all these conversations about it and understanding that just because this person is no longer in the room with me and maybe not even in my life anymore, that I'm capable of feeling peace still, you know, because it took a long time before I could feel that peace again, like I feel now.
I want to feel that again. I'm only 2 weeks out, not even fully 2 weeks, a week and a half as of today, you know, and it's still been like, I'm better today. You know, I cried for like the first 5 days every day. You know, I've been journaling. I've been doing all the things I know to do that will help me get through this. But, you know, I texted you the other day. I was like, how long did it take for the obsession to leave? And you were like, it hasn't. I was like, God damn it.
I felt bad when I said that.
No,
but
it's
true.
I needed to hear that because, like, you know, I know it will go away because it went away for drugs and alcohol, right? Like, I know that the obsession will go away. And it's like, I go back and forth, you know, like I start getting in my head. I'm like, well, what if God wants me to forgive her and make it work, you know? And and then I really think about it and I really pray about it. And I hear from God, and God's like, if I wanted that to happen, if I wanted you to do that, like, you know, you would feel that. But I know in my heart, I know in my gut that I need to get through this. And like, she's not the one for me. I'm not the one for her, you know, vice versa. Like, it's, you know, it sucks that it took 2 years to figure out, you know, and it sucks that I really thought she was, you know, it sucks that, you know, and what's crazy too, man, is like here towards the end, I felt myself like, and it's shameful to say this, you know, but like I wanted her so bad. I wanted to be with her so bad. And I would have started giving things up to be with her. I would have stopped, like, you know, we were like, what's funny is too, we were on a break kind of like, you know, we weren't like break, but we were like, let's not stay together for like a week and try to figure some stuff out because we were fighting a lot. And like you know, when we said that we were going to sit down and like she wanted to write out a timeline of like where we should be in the next couple of years. And I was like, cool with that. And like I could feel myself like starting to become willing to give up some of my dreams to be with her. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I really would have. But I could feel myself getting to that point of surrendering that. And it wasn't even that, like, it's not the same thing as surrendering my will to my higher power, but surrendering my will to a person, you know? And it's like, I'm not saying that you don't, because any good relationship comes with some sacrifices for sure. But like, you know, I don't know what I would have given up. I don't know if I would have stopped pursuing music. I don't know if I would have, you know, not gone to grad school. I don't know. My mind hadn't set there yet on what I was going to give up, but like I had come to this place where I was like willing to give up. And like, I know that's not what my higher power wants for me. Like if I really focus and try to hear from God, like I know that like the things that I want are mostly aligned with him. Like, you know, now, of course they weren't before I got sober. Of course they weren't before I like got connected to my higher power and really like built this relationship. But I know now that like, the goals that I have are like for the most part aligned with him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, music, school, a career, like, you know, the side thing I want to do eventually. Like, I know that it doesn't come from a place of selfishness because I really want it all so I can help more people. You know what I mean? So it's weird. Like, God has just been speaking to me for 2 weeks, like consistently about, you know, like, this isn't right. Like, this wasn't the right person for you. Yeah, you miss her right now. And like, literally my sponsor, like the first week I had to call him every day because her house is by my shop. And I like leaving work and I'm like, I'm going over there, you know, and I literally have to call Russ and I'm like, Russell, I'm going over there, man. Like, he's like, don't go over there. He's like, drive over here if you have to. He's like, you're in withdrawal right now. Like, you need to go 90 days before you have any kind of contact with her. And I broke that, of course, you know, and I've caught myself looking at her Instagram and like that didn't help, you know, and like anytime I like see a picture of her now, even if it's like some of the ones in my, you know, photos, like my fucking like stomach just like drops, dude. It's
that trauma response.
Straight up, dude. Like, and I was going to say this too. When you were telling me about the thing with you in high school, it reminded me, and I think this is a trauma I've never really dealt with. But when I was in high school, I was 16. I was dating this girl in Abilene. She was 15. This girl took my virginity. She had already lost her virginity to like a dude that was like way older than her, which is fucked up. I think he was like 20 or something and she was 15. And we dated for a while. And like one weekend, and this is, you know, not my proudest moment, but like I said, she had already lost her virginity. She was like, I'm going to take your virginity, whatever. Well, one weekend she had stayed with a friend and they snuck out with us and we all like fucking partied and did ecstasy and all this shit and she took my virginity. And then that friend's mom woke up in the middle of the night and saw that they were gone, called the cops, looked all over town for them, all this shit, figured out where we were. We were at this dude's grandma's house. He was gone for the weekend. We had like partied in there and they came and got them. They rape kitted them. And then she just let them believe that like I took advantage of her, gave her drugs, took her virginity, which I should have had fucking better, at 16, I was pretty fucking stupid,
Yeah.
like shouldn't have been doing ecstasy, shouldn't have been like trying to have sex at 16, but she let them believe that was what happened, like, and she didn't tell them the truth of like, she had already lost her virginity. She was the one that was like, let's take ecstasy, and I, of course, like I was down as fuck, but, yeah, man, it fucked me up. I mean, I never really, I didn't talk about it in therapy and treatment. I didn't talk about it in therapy after treatment. I've never really dealt with it. And I wonder if that's like a root for a lot of things, because I really almost forgot about it until just then. Like, I haven't talked about this in years. Like, I don't even know if I told my last, partner about this. I think I did. I think I typically tell it to women I date, but it really fucked me up. I was 16. I was so desperate to like be in love with somebody, and like, I know I have my I should have had better judgment and what we did and everything. Like, I should have realized like, yeah, this isn't good to be sneaking out, doing ecstasy, having sex at 16. Like, but
yeah, but when you're 16, you don't think about that shit.
Yeah,
that's not on the forefront of your mind at all.
You don't have mature, responsible thoughts at 16. But like, I've been just going nonstop since then with just relationships and sex with the wrong people and like hurting women. And like, I think I've just never really fucking dealt with it. I've never really, like, I think, it's funny because all my life I've had things like that happen, and it gets me sober for a little while, but it never lasts. I have these come to Jesus moments. I've always done this in my life. I come to Jesus for a few months or a year or whatever. I'm sober. I'm going to church. I'm actively connected to my higher power, and then I just forget, and I just go right back to what I was doing. And like, I even though I have 4 years sober next month, like, I still am that person, and like, it's changed from drugs and alcohol. And that's funny, is 2.5 years ago, I wrote songs about this, Using Dreams, on our second album. It's like, I feel like I'm using again, but it's not a rig, it's your skin. It's like, I use people and sex and even food like to change the way I feel still, And like, I have waves of where I like, get this recovery back in. I get plugged in again, and like, I'm doing good. And then I fucking like, no, I haven't relapsed on drugs and alcohol, but I have still changed the way I feel with other things. And like, I have to get to the point, and like, I without drugs, you're still forced to sit with the feelings. You're still forced to process them. And like, I have gotten a lot better about that. Like, I can sit with the awful feelings now, but I still have the potential to change the way I feel with other things other than drugs and alcohol. And it's, I don't know if I'll ever be to the point. I hope I can be to the point where I never have to change the way I feel again. I don't know if there's a human that gets to that point. Maybe Jesus or the Buddha. I don't know. But like, I think that's like, the less I can do that, the better off I'll be, and the more connected to my higher power I'll be if I can just not try to change the way I feel. You know what I'm saying? I think we're always going to do that a little bit, but like, that's the goal, right? That's the whole goal of recovery, is like to not change the way we feel. Like, so at least, I mean, the first goal is to not change the way we feel with drugs and alcohol. But, the end goal is to not change the way we feel at all.
No, I mean, you even said it, and it reminded me of that reading in the book where it's, the insanity or the desperation from even a week ago or whatever it says is it fades away so quickly. It doesn't matter if it's a week or a year. Like, it goes away at some point, and that's how I've dealt with my life up until this point. That trauma, or that those feelings go away. The memories kind of fade, but the trauma is forever. Like, that traumatic marker is always there. And he explained it in a way that like, you hold it in your body, in places in your actual body. And it kind of blew my mind, because it was like, well, maybe I am. Like, what if I'm holding on to all this shit that I've forgotten about? Same thing. Like, I forget about
holding all my trauma in my dick.
Yeah, me too. Like, I really feel that way, because even now it's like for like 15 days, I didn't have any desire for anything. Yeah. Nothing. Like, to be completely open and vulnerable, I couldn't even get hard. Like,
that's where I'm at.
There was no desire for anything.
Nothing.
It's really dark to look back at it now, but I for 15 full days I starved myself.
I know. I saw you. You look great now. You look healthy, but like, you were fucking so skinny when I saw you. And that was just a few days in. Like,
yeah.
And But
I think the starvation and the stress and the emotion, I was crying every day.
yeah.
You know, all that overwhelming feeling of just like despair really destroyed my body, you know. And I remember feeling it was so crazy. I was telling my therapist about this yesterday. At one point, I remember being at work, like I could not walk up a 5-step ladder. And it was like at that point I felt a like a sense of accomplishment. And it's so sick to think about that, because it was like I finally have deprived myself enough to feel the pain. You know, I was desperately looking for something outside of myself, and just along the same lines that you were talking about, change the way that I felt, because I was feeling so much pain inside, mentally and emotionally, that I wanted my body to match. Yeah. You know what I mean? And before I would have gone to the gym and just destroyed my body, and I would have still been feeding myself. And I've done that before. You know, I've gotten extremely fit through pain. Just like absolute desperation of like, I want my body to match the way that my mind and my soul feels. Yeah. But this time around, I was starving myself so hard that the pain came from the exhaustion. Yeah. You know, I felt so defeated. I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks, and I remember telling Victor, like, I'm really concerned about knowing how much I've lost, because I was a little over 200 when we broke up. And that's my healthy weight. 190 to 205 is my healthy weight. That's where I sit when I'm active, I'm fit, working out regularly, and I'm eating well. But I was, you know, and I know I don't like to talk about numbers because of the eating disorder stuff, but I was at 184 pounds whenever I went to the gym and stepped on the scale. And I had been pushing that off and trying to protect myself from that. And when I saw that number, I'm glad that I did now, because it scared the fuck out of me. It terrified me to know that like this was this overwhelming. It wasn't just like, you know, it wasn't like water weight. It wasn't like a little bit of damage. It was extreme damage to my body. And I remember feeling that like exhaustion at one point, where I physically could not let my legs just would not pull me up this ladder again. And at, you know, not even 4 months ago, I was squatting 300 plus pounds, but I can't even pull my body weight up anymore. And it was because of that extreme exhaustion, that punishment that I was putting myself through, you know, and that's nothing that I want to ever experience again. It's not a thing that I ever want anybody to ever experience, because that is terrifying. You know what I mean?
Man, I can relate, because like the first 3 days I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, and then I would go to work at the landscape place, and like I was like I was just wearing like a light jacket, mm-hmm. and like in like 22 degrees, and I was like, it fucking burns, but mm-hmm. I want to feel pain right now, like, and like I couldn't like listen to podcasts or music while I was working. Like all I could do was just like, it's cold as fuck out here, my hands hurt, my face hurts, and I like didn't cover myself up at all, and I just wanted to feel it. Mm-hmm. Like it's sick, but I'm also like, you know, and one thing I've like, it's funny because I said this to you in a text, but it's been helping me, as like this pain has a purpose. Mm. Every journal entry, I've been finishing it with that, like, and I'd like to call this episode that, because I think it's appropriate. I think it's appropriate for what we're going through. Absolutely. Is like, I don't know, the pain that we're going through. I think it's very important. Like you said earlier, like be grateful for this. Like, it's really important for not only our recovery, but our growth as men to like, you know, we're both dealing with the same issue in like a little bit different situation, but the same core issue of like codependency. For me, a little bit of inadequacy, a lot of fear for both of us. Like it's, you know, God is dealing with us with this for greater purpose. Like we are going to get through this, and we're going to be better for it, and we're going to be able to help more people because of it, you know? Like codependency is way more common than people understand. Like it's not so typical, I don't think, as most people think it is. It's not always like the caretaker. Sometimes it's like the desperate like love. Sometimes it's like other forms of it too, like not being like scared to be alone. Like I don't know. It's interesting, but it's just funny how, you know, you and I are so close, and like we are going through the same thing as, you know what I mean? And like my buddy Tyler, like he listens to this, shout out to him, but his ex and my ex were really close. Both same birthday, same sign. They did kind of similar things. Mm-hmm. He got cheated on, and like he has been my fucking rock through this. Like he came over and cooked me dinner last week on Tuesday after I hadn't eaten for 3 days. Like he's checked on me every day. Like it's funny how this shit sucks, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I'm so fucking grateful that God has showed me, not only the people that are in my life, the opportunity that I have to grow, the things that I know I need to work on that I get to be better at, and I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm really, it's kind of fucked up to think about it in that way, but I'm extremely grateful for it. I really am. Like, I would, like you said it earlier, like I would do anything to have this person back. If she called me right now for anything, I would immediately respond and do it.
Yeah.
Whatever it took. And that kind of bums me out to know that I'm still that weak, but I know that no matter what, like that when you told me that, like it really stuck with me. This pain does have a purpose, and that's when I started to shift that kind of that, I guess, that pain from a toxic place to a much more healthy place, and for me that looks like a lot of different things. I had a vacation planned, months ago, and I kind of didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to spend the money. I didn't want to, be around other people. I just wanted to kind of sit in my shit still, and I forced myself to go and had an incredible time. We snowboarded for 3 straight days. I got a really cool tattoo on my leg.
So
like,
sick.
I mean, I got to experience some stuff that I wouldn't have got to experience otherwise. I got to have a lot of fun, and it was really hard for me to have fun. Like, I remember, like, even in the moment, like in the middle of, like, I was going down the mountain at one point. It was really good snow, and it was on the 3rd day, so I was exhausted. But I remember just smiling, and it was like, man, this is. Awesome. It felt at one point like I felt guilty because I was happy, but I knew that no matter what, like that pain that I was going through was leading up to this, and there's going to be moments of clarity and joy again, and hopefully they'll come back in bigger bursts, right? But that pain now looks like a lot more productivity. I've been going to the gym regularly, and there's time, like I'm still undernourished, like I'm still having a hard time feeding myself enough to really make myself feel, healthy again, but I'm at least doing a much better job of keeping myself at baseline, and so whenever I get in, I've put myself in a difficult situation a couple times in the gym where I'm having to work harder than I probably should. And in those moments where I feel like this overwhelming sense of like my body's telling me to quit, like I have this battle inside myself when I'm running or when I'm doing like a big dynamic lift, and I can't get it done. That inner battle within me is just that small self. It's like the small person. And I can't remember who talked about this. It was on a Rogan episode, but I've taken a lot of things from people like that because they've gone through this pain too, and their pain looks different than mine. But it was Jordan Burroughs. He's an Olympic wrestler, and he said that's my small self, and I have to fight with my big self has to fight with my small self, and my small self is telling me to quit, telling me to stop, to put down the weight, that you're not strong enough, you're inadequate, you haven't ate enough, you're not big enough, you're not capable, like all these different things, and I have to battle with it in the moment. And the one thing that's given me the fuel to battle with that, and that's given me a bigger engine now, is that this pain that I'm feeling right now, I want my body to match that pain. I want to feel that in my body. I want to, when I stand up today, like when I stand up right now, I'm in a lot of pain. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm sore. Everything hurts. And I feel it physically. But today it's not because of an unhealthy obsession with starvation, an unhealthy obsession with feeling that pain, because for 3 weeks I slept on my couch. Yeah. I would not allow myself to sleep in bed because it was too comfortable. You know what I mean? I wanted to feel uncomfortability for that through a toxic manner. And I've been able to thank God, shift it into a much more healthy place. And it's still probably a little obsessive, a little bit, toxic, but it's much better. Yeah. I was doing this lift on a landmine, and it's that deal that hinges on the deal. And you have the bar, and it's got some weights on it, and it hinges off the ground, right? And it's a full body dynamic movement, and you go across your body and you press it up from the ground. Right? You deadlift it up and press it up, and it's hard, man. It's cardiovascular. It's you got to use a lot of your whole body essentially. Right. And at one point I was doing a lot of weight and a lot of reps, and I was like, I was having that inner battle of like, you need to quit. You're not capable. And my small self was telling me all these horrible things about myself, that I'm not going to be able to do it. And there she was, you know, this pain that I had felt from this person, and this face that I had been trying to recall all this time. My body showed it to me and said, here you go. You wanted this, motherfucker. Here it is. And I got angry, and I got just overwhelmed with rage over this pain that I had been feeling emotionally and spiritually. And then I was able to channel it into a physical manner. You know what I mean? I channeled it into this activity that I was doing. And, you know, I wouldn't have been able to understand that. I wouldn't have done that. I would have been laying on the fucking couch doing nothing if it wouldn't have been for, you know, these influencers, these people that talk openly about these struggles, talk openly about this pain that they've experienced, that they are able to channel into something more. And man, it fucking hurts. Everything hurts some days. Like it hurts mentally, emotionally, physically, but that pain that I'm experiencing, and I posted it on Instagram, it was a picture of my hands all torn up from deadlifts. That pain really does have a purpose, because whenever I do it physically, I can see it. You know, it becomes less of a overwhelming sense of like inner pain, but I can see it in the blood on my hands. I can see it in the weight that I'm moving. I can feel it in that, like, my heart just pounding, telling me to stop, all these signals that I'm getting from my body to stop. Once I push past that, I can feel that pain, and I can see it in front of me. You know what I mean? I can see the scrapes across my legs. I can see the veins just coming out of my arms. I can see the change in my body that pain has really equaled into. It's really produced something that I can't produce otherwise. Right. You know what I mean? I'm too weak otherwise to produce some sort of product like that, to get those results. Like, you know, I would have quit at rep 8 instead of rep 12. Right. You know what I mean? And that pain really does bring something out of me, and I have to have it physically, you know, in front of me. But even in this sense, like this whole conversation is motivated by pain. Yeah. Like every word that I've said here has been because I've been at the depths over the last month. You know what I mean? When I said that obsession is not gone, it's because every fucking day I wake up and I feel some sort of pain, some sort of stress, some sort of overwhelming sense of inadequacy, fear, all these things that you talked about. And I have to get through that. I have to get to the end of the day. You know what I mean? And then I have to sit in it in the darkness, when I'm by myself and I don't want to reach out. You know, when I'm feeling dark and tired and, you know, exhausted, just empty. You know, all of that day's work goes to that one point, and I have to be able to be comfortable in that. I have to be really comfortable being uncomfortable, and it's not fucking easy, man. Yeah, it's not, but it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary now.
Yeah. It's funny too, like, you know, I've never really been physically fit, but like working out and doing that stuff, it's crazy how much it's been helping my mental health too. It's like I could be fucking like, and I know the feeling you're talking about where you start thinking about it and you just like get motivated as fuck because you're just mad, and then you fucking, that's like some Super Saiyan shit, bro. You're just like fuck, and like, and then afterwards you're like, just stillness, and just like fucking calm. Like you can actually, it's like not at the forefront of your mind anymore. Maybe still be there a little bit, but it's more in the back, and you're able to just like, and it's, I don't know, it sucks that we're going through this, but I know that we'll both get to a point, and I hope everyone that's going through this right now, or anything like this, any pain that you're experiencing, if you're listening to this, like, there will be a day when you look back on this period of your life and you'll be so grateful that it happened. Like you don't understand now, and it seems like it's impossible to get out of, and it seems like this hurt will never go away fully, and you know, and it may never fully 100% go away, but like we can heal from it, and we don't have to carry this pain into the next stage of our life, into the next relationship, into the next partner. We don't have to like bring this with us. Like we can do all the things to heal and process and grow from it. Like it's, you know, and like the beautiful thing about it, and like, especially when it comes to romantic stuff, romance and partners and love and losing love and the loss of like, you know, that person in your life is like the best things in life, the most coveted, like, you know, films and songs and music is all from that pain. You know, it's like we wouldn't, like, the human experience would not be as beautiful without that, you know. And it's like when you're in the fucking middle of it, it's hurtful and it sucks, man. And like I said earlier, I wouldn't wish this on anybody, to feel the way I felt, to have that lump in your throat that drops down to your stomach every time you see a picture of her. But like, I know now where I need to be. I know now, like, what I need to do, who I need to, like, I've been given the gift of desperation to, like, work on myself and become the best possible version of myself. And I haven't been that person. I haven't been that person ever in my life. Like, I'm closer now than ever for sure. I'm like, yeah, I'm sober. I'm like in school. I'm working on all these things to grow as a person. But like, I'm not there yet. And I don't know if I'll ever fully be 100% the best possible version of myself. I don't know. But I can strive to grow closer to that version of me, that version 7.0 or whatever many version updates it's going to be, you know, iOS 7,000. I don't know. But this kind of shit just gives us the opportunity to get closer to that, right? You know, and I don't know, it's an opportunity and we have to take it, you know.
Yeah, we can't try and escape it, man. That's the one thing I've learned is like you talked about earlier about changing yourself with other things. Like I mean, that's why I'm fucking vaping now. You know what I mean? Like,
day 3 of Nicorette, dog. What's up?
God, dude, I need to do something different because I don't have just one. I have 2.
Dude, I had 30 in my car because for some reason I could not bring myself to throw them away. Like, even though they were done and they taste like shit, like, I just would put them in my car, and I literally filled up my glove box with like 30 of them, and I had to throw them all away the other day. It's bad. There's some in my work truck. There's some in my car. Like, it's bad, dude. Fuck them little Uno Masses. And they're expensive, bro.
They're really expensive for what they are.
Yeah.
And because I remember feeling myself like reaching, like I talked about earlier, I was reaching for something, and I don't want to go down the path that I've gone down where I reach for females. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that because it's not going to bring me any fucking good.
Nope.
Every relationship that I've been in before this, I've been able to point to one thing that they did and say that was your fault. That's why we're not in this relationship anymore. And I think this one's so profound because she didn't do any of those things. She didn't cheat on me. She didn't tell me that I was a horrible person. She didn't yell and scream at me. She didn't do any of those things that have been done to me in the past that I could use as a scapegoat, right? She told me, "I love you, and I hope that you get the help that you need." You know, and that was the last thing that she ever said to me whenever we broke up. And it was like, I was begging for, that's probably what
reason to hate her.
Yeah, and that's probably why I've always acted toxic, you know, and I've always acted, you know, out of my personality when things are going bad, because I need justification to fucking hate you. And I've said this to several women that I've dated is you're gonna hate me after this, you know. And it's because I need that. There needs to be like a clear separation, a clear, like, definite end. Like,
it's a cop out, because it's like, well, it wasn't me, it was you. You're a fucking asshole, you know, or whatever. Like, and it's easy to do, you know. Yeah, no, it's the only thing that makes it easy for me. You know what I mean? Because then there's something I can point to and say that's the reason. It's not me. Yeah. It's not my toxic personality. It's not my character defects. It's not my insecurities, my jealousy, all this other bullshit that I've not dealt with. It's none of those things, because those things don't exist. Yeah. I can always point to something else, but she made that impossible for me. Yeah. And I'm fucking grateful for that now. And it's so dumb. And this whole time I'm thinking about, like, when I listen back to this, I'm really like, man, we're just talking. It's women, and it seems so simple. It's just a person, right? It's just another person. But it doesn't matter if it was a person, a place, a thing, a family member, losing a loved one. It doesn't matter what it is. This feels worse than anything I've felt. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it doesn't matter that it's just because it was a person. Like, and I keep fucking with this because it's hers. You know what I mean? It doesn't get any fucking better. Like, I'm still a fucking child at heart. You know what I mean? Like, I still get attachment to things, you know what I mean? And but all of this stuff it can be simple, and it can be, like, relatively easy to get over, but
what I've kind of come to understand through this is if I do those things to get over it quickly, it won't pay off.
Yeah.
It won't, because it'll just cover it up, and then I'll use it to hurt somebody else or hurt myself later on. You know what I mean? Like, I know
slapping a Band-Aid on it.
I know how to put a Band-Aid on it. You know what I mean? It looks like a little fire symbol on my phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I know
I
know how to get over it. I know exactly how to move on from something like this. But I know that's not going to be that's not going to actually fix anything. You know what I mean? It's not going to repair any part of me that's wrong. It's not going to do anything that I want it to do. And when she said that, I love you and I hope that you get the help that you need, that made all of that relevant. It made all of that obvious to me, because it no longer was, her or the relationship or the situation of the world. It wasn't like it was me. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was faced with my issues on the forefront. It had to be me,
Yeah.
And now, like what you said, like this thing has to have, you have to put in effort. Like I don't want to. I don't fucking want to. I don't want to do any of this shit. I don't want to go to fucking therapy, and that's what I'm gonna ask you about. Is like, are you gonna do something like that?
I want to. I need to. I just got health insurance again, so I want your dude's number. I think I'm gonna try to do that.
Yeah, he doesn't accept insurance, but he'll give you a thing that you can turn in for reimbursement. Oh, okay. And is like, I mean, $100 an hour is a lot, but man, like I said,
I've needed it forever. I haven't been in therapy since my first year of recovery, and I know I fucking need it. Like and it's kind of silly that I'm gonna go into school to try to be a counselor, and I'm like not in therapy. You know what I mean? Like it's like practice what you preach, right? But I mean, I wouldn't be where I'm at now if I didn't go to therapy, like in treatment, after treatment. Like it saved me and it helped me. And what's funny is my therapist that I went to for, I think it was like 12 weeks when I first got home from treatment. I'm dealing with the same shit that I was dealing with then, except that I was with, my ex of 4 years then. We were like wrapping up the relationship pretty much, and I was like struggling with all these things about how my identity was wrapped up in like being with someone and codependency, and like didn't feel worthwhile unless I had like a woman's attention and like all these things, And it's funny that like I'm not gonna say I'm recovered, because I don't believe that anybody's ever recovered. Like, yes, I am 4 years sober in a couple weeks, but I'm still dealing with the same fucking me that I was 4 years ago. It's just changed a little bit. And yes, I'm closer to God than ever. Yes, God like speaks to me in a lot of different ways. I've had some real fucked up dreams, which is, we need to get into that too. I had a dream 2 nights ago, but I'm still dealing with that shit, still dealing with the codependent stuff and the defects and everything. And so I know I need it. I know I need it for sure. So
okay, well, I gotta pee, but okay. I want to
dreams thing. I'll say this too. What's so funny about everything that happened with me is like my spirit knew something was up. Like my spirit knew that like something was about to happen, right? Because like for I don't know how many weeks leading up to us breaking up, I was having dreams about her cheating on me, and I didn't tell her this, and I've told my sponsor, and I've told a couple other people, but like the Saturday, whenever I uncovered all that shit, and that Friday night. I worked the overnight, which I can sleep on the Friday night. Well, I can sleep on all of them.
Do you dream a lot?
Dream a lot.
You often dream?
Almost every night. But that Friday night I had a dream she cheated on me, and I woke up Saturday morning in a panic. And so this is something I'm not proud of, and it's pretty fucking dark. But so I woke up in a panic, right? And I played it cool with clients and the staff member coming on shift. But I fucking left. I usually hang out at the house. Like after the next person comes in, I usually hang out and have breakfast with the clients and kick it. And sometimes I'll meet with a sponsee if them, whatever, if they're ready to do their step work or whatever. And that morning I left as soon as I clocked out. And like I went and like got donuts, and I was like, I'm gonna go surprise her. And I just went to her house, and I was like, I'll surprise you with donuts. But really, I was like, where is he? You know what I mean?
Looking for the.
And I'd been having dreams like that for 2 weeks, not every night, but like off and on. I would have a dream about her cheating on me, or like something bad would happen, like, and I'd be mad at her in the dream, or I'd like be fucked up like emotionally, and then that shit happened that day, like later that night, and man, like, my fucking soul knew God was trying to, the universe, God, whatever you think, like, it was trying to, like, show me, warn me, tell me, like, something's not right, like, you know what I mean? And that, you know, and then ever since then, I've been having fucked up dreams, and I have been having dreams about her. I've been having dreams about bad shit. 2 nights ago, I had a dream. I haven't told you how, but I had a dream you killed yourself.
Oh shit! I didn't know it was like that.
Yeah.
You just told me I died.
No, I didn't want to tell you that. I don't
Yeah.
know. I just felt like it wasn't, you know, I don't want to tell you that over text, but I had a dream you killed yourself, and me and Parker had to, like, plan your funeral, and we had to, like, console your mom, and, like, all this shit, and it fucked me up. And I texted you at, like, 6 in the morning. I was just like, I'm so grateful for you, bro. I love you, man. Like, I was.
What day was that?
Let's see.
Because I remember I was
Monday
awake.
night. It must have been Monday night.
I was awake for some reason. I remember seeing it.
Yeah. Yes. It freaked me out, dude. Like, I hate dreaming like that. I remember 5 years ago, like, when I was with my ex that I was with for 4 years, like, I had a dream my dad died, and I just woke up and I sobbed for an hour, and she literally had to hold me like a baby, bro. I was just fucking weeping because I like called my dad the next day, and I was just like, I love you, like, you know. And I have real vivid dreams, and I it's not always bad. I don't want to scare people in early recovery, because, like, a lot of my dreams are just like, oh, that was weird, and they're like, that was kind of cool. Like, I had some dream last night that I was in this, like, huge construction project in my hometown to build, like, a giant amphitheater type thing, and I was, like, helping plan it or something, and I was there doing a tour. It was weird. But yeah, I have super vivid dreams. I try to write them down when I can. But what about you? Did you dream about everything? I know you told me you dreamed a little bit, but
I've dreamed a couple times. Most of the time I forget. I can't remember them.
yeah.
Like my dreams are very, very infrequent. Like to the point where it's maybe once a year I'll remember something that happened in a dream. The one that I remember from before all this happened was about my dad dying as well.
Yeah.
I got a wilderness first responder certification last year, and so I learned a lot about, you know, first aid, and basically my certification is just short of an EMT.
Yeah.
So I have, like, a lot of, like, field skills, right?
Right.
And I remember it was a few months after this training, because I thought, like, if anything was going to come of that, because it was, you know, they put you through a lot of scenarios.
Right.
And so I thought if anything was going to come out of it, it was going to come out of it relatively quickly, you know, as far as, like, any kind of, you know, dreams or anything like that. But it was months later, I had a dream that because my dad's in his 60s, but I had a dream that he had collapsed, and I remember going through the stages of a trauma, you're the first person on the scene, you assess the situation, blah blah blah, get through all these different steps, and I remember clearing his airway, and then I started doing CPR, and I remember feeling his ribs break as I was in my dream, and it was so vivid. Ugh. And it was horrible. It was a horrible dream that I like I said, I probably dream more than I know, but I don't remember them. This one I remember vividly. I remember everything that happened. And so that was before any of this stuff that happened in this relationship, and that was the only dream that I remember in the most recent times, right?
Yeah.
But after this all happened, I was still sleeping on my couch, so I probably wasn't sleeping that well. I had a dream, and I have never told anybody about this. I remember, like, kind of writing it down, just really talking about it out loud, where I would kind of try to solidify it in my mind, but I don't even think that was necessary. It's just so vivid now that I can remember it no matter what. But it was like a 3-part dream. It felt like
I've had some like that. It's weird.
Yeah, it felt like Groundhog Day, but it was a different scenario every time. And I don't remember the scenarios specifically now, but I remember the first time she was with a bunch of people, and it was at an outside, like, kind of restaurant bar type thing, and I don't know where we were. It was in an unfamiliar place. But there was like a shooting or something, and I remember being at least in the area, and I knew that she was there, whatever, and I went and this is also fucking weird to even talk about, because it's like my brain is just weird. But I was there, and she, like, I got her out of there, you know, and then there was somebody else had gotten hurt, and I went and got the hurt person and helped them, and got, you know, somebody got shot, and I guess it kind of has to do with that training that I had, that I was able to, you know, help in that moment. So I think a lot of it is tied to that, like that knowledge that I know that, and I think a lot of it has fear that I, like, a duty to serve. Like, if because I got it through my place of employment. If I'm ever on the clock, like I have a duty to serve.
Right.
Like because I received that certification through my place of employment. So if I'm on the clock and somebody gets hurt, if I don't treat, then I'm liable. You know what I mean? I have to treat. You know what I mean? And vice versa. If I'm off the clock and I treat, I'm liable. You know what I mean? Because because I'm have some sort of certification and that person dies, it's on me. Yeah. Unless I'm on the clock and that person is receiving services from that place of employment, right? Yeah. It's very specific to only people under my care, right? And so I think I have a lot of anxiety about that because like I would want to help anybody in any situation, but if I'm not working for that place and it's not a client of that place, then I am liable for anybody that dies if I treat. Yeah. Right. So I have a lot of anxiety around that. I believe that's what I'm kind of taking out of this dream. But so that was the first scenario and it went okay. The second scenario, kind of same thing, but I had to take her to the hospital or something. And the third scenario, I don't really remember all that well. I remember that time we weren't in a vehicle. We were leaving on foot in some way. But all three scenarios were the same back to back to back. And it was all in the same night. And it was all had to do with me saving her in some way. Like she was in distress. And I remember waking up the next morning and like feeling so overwhelmed with like fear of like how she was doing. Like, and I had this anxiety for like a couple of days about like her well-being, you know, and I was like really overwhelmed and like kind of like I just couldn't fight it off anymore. You know what I mean? And it took a couple of days after that dream, but I finally like I gave in and I reached out to her, I contacted her, and it went horribly. You know, it went really bad, and I should have known that. You know, I should have known that it was going to be a bad situation, and I knew that I was stepping out of line by doing that. You know, and I justified it by saying like all these things, like I was just so terrified, and you know I was, but that doesn't justify what me stepping out of line and contacting her when she clearly doesn't want me to do that, you know. And so that's as far as like dreams go, that's the majority of it. Everything else is just I've woken up scared a couple of times, woken up crying, and I don't know why. Yeah. There was one night it was probably a week after that. I remember waking up crying, but I don't know why. Like I can't recall that dream at all, and I don't like that necessarily because I'd like to know what my brain is doing when I'm sleeping, and I don't know why I can't recall anything. I don't think you're supposed to. I think that's actually, I guess there's some sort of chemical that gets released when you wake up that's supposed to wash all that away. It's supposed to kind of, wipe your memory, and mine works really well. You know, I can't remember shit when I wake up. But I know that night when I woke up crying, or that morning I woke up crying, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was just bawling my eyes out. Like I couldn't breathe. And I think that's what woke me up, was just like, I felt like I was suffocating. And I don't know if it had anything to do with her, but if I was to guess, it probably did, just my body responding to everything that's going on. Yeah. And throughout this process, I've learned that our bodies do some fucking crazy stuff, man. Really crazy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. It's weird how. This is what I was going to ask. I haven't cried so much. I've cried more in the last 2 weeks than all of my almost 4 years of being sober. Yeah. I don't know if you can relate to that.
Yeah, it was all in the first week, the first 2 weeks, I guess. I started to tear up last night when I heard that video, and I think if I were to listen or watch that video, I would probably bawl my eyes out. Man, I've always had a hard time crying, regardless. Like no matter what the situation was, I sometimes have to force myself to, because I know that I need it. I know that sometimes my body needs to let that out. I need to have that outlet. When some of my family members have died, I had a cousin get hit by a car. I don't remember what month that was, but I think it was like April, maybe. Was it? I can't remember.
No, because we just got out of fall.
It was no. What do you mean we got out of fall?
I thought it would just happen like 4 months ago, 5 months ago.
I had a cousin pass away from the virus about that time. But this was
damn.
before that. It's been a little while.
I guess
It's been
you're
a
right.
little
Yeah.
time. I can't remember exactly when it was.
No, you're right. I mean,
I could-
COVID's got me all fucked
Yeah.
up. Yeah, but no, you're right.
I've got his little deal in my truck. I can look when I get done. But
yeah, that sounds about right. 'Cause it was, yeah.
I know that maybe it was August. I don't remember. But anyways, it was shocking to the entire family. You know,
Yeah.
he was married into the family through a cousin of mine, but he was, and it's still on my Facebook. He was one of the like kindest men you'll ever meet. Like, legitimately, you can't. He's one of those guys that will never talk badly about anybody, and he was just taken like that, you know. And the kid drove off, and it was extremely painful for everybody. And I remember it had to have been in the summer because it happened on I believe a Friday night, and so I found out about it I think Saturday morning. It was like it happened in the middle of the night. He was changing a tire on his pickup on the side of the road, and somebody hit him. And because I remember I was about to take a group out to go camping.
Yeah.
And I was on my way to the house to pick up a bunch of clients, and we were going to go. I was already in the van. I remember exactly where I was. My mom called me, and she said, "Are you working?" I said, "I'm on my way. What's up?" And she said, "Well, Laura was just killed this morning." And I remember compartmentalizing it. I said, "Oh my, like, okay, what do we need to do?" And she said, "Well, the funeral's this day. It was like on a Wednesday or something, and we've just got to get everything ready." And I said, "Okay, I'll be back tomorrow night. I'll head straight there when I get done." And I remember, like, I knew that I had to step into a setting where I was going to be, like, I was, you know, when I take those guys out, I'm completely responsible for their lives, you know. And so at that point I knew, all right, let's put this in a little box and put it away. And that's exactly what I did. And then when I got back, I remember getting in my pickup and driving home and just bawling my eyes out. Yeah. And that was the first time I'd cried in a long time. And then after that, I kind of felt myself having to force myself to cry, you know, like that was the one time that it kind of came out, you know, just normally. And then I was forcing myself to cry, and I'd look at a picture of him, and I'd see his family, and I'd feel the pain that was in the room from everybody else. And you know, then I would cry, you know. Yeah. But this time when I lost my cousin to the virus, it was painful, and it hurt. But there was no ceremony, you know. Yeah. And so I didn't really get to grieve that. You know, he used to cut my hair, you know, back when I first moved here. He used to cut my hair like once a month. Excuse me. And so I had a lot of interactions with him, and I had a lot of love for him, and he was one of the only people that I had here in Lubbock. Yeah. Most of my family doesn't live here. And then when my aunt died, it was just stress and fear about, you know, my dad and a bunch of other stuff. And I know that my dad doesn't process emotion, so I was worried about him. You know, when we buried his dad, me and my brother carried my grandfather to his grave, and my dad just sat there straight-faced, you know. Yeah. He didn't have much to say or do anything, and I knew that it was going to be like that with his sister too, so I was really worried. But again, didn't really show much emotion. I you know, that's when I had her come over and we talked about it, and then I wasn't processing my emotions correctly, and that's why it turned into what it did that night, you know. And that's where it set off the breakup, you know. And then whenever she was gone, it was like a fountain of fucking tears. Yeah. You know, and it was like, I think a lot of it was pent up emotion from the last couple of months. But a lot of it too was just regret and remorse and just pain. And I remember that we broke up on a Sunday, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every moment that I was alone, I cried. Yeah. And I felt so weak. And so, like, I just felt like worthless. You know, I thought, man, if I can't handle this, I can't handle anything. And I was just in this dark place of tears and just, and I've said it before, but like in those first 3 days, if it wasn't for the fact that I have the Cove and all those people that, you know, have some sort of dependence on me, I don't think I would have made it through that. Yeah. I think I wanted to get fucked up more in my life on that Monday night than I ever have. Yeah. And, you know, Wednesday I went and talked to Victor, and, I had cried before I talked to him, and then the whole time I sat there for 2 hours and didn't shed a single tear. And I think a lot of that has to do with just like suppressing that stuff, that feeling of guilt and shame, that feeling of you know, weakness. Yeah. And, you know, even when I want to cry about it, I don't know if I can, you know, because it hurts just as much today. Like like right now, just talking about it, it feels like there's a knife in my chest, you know.
Fucking hate that feeling, man.
And I don't know what that block is. I don't know what keeps me from crying. I don't know, but I know that there's something in there that's not allowing me to let that emotion out right now.
Yeah. The first couple of days I'd like come home and I'd like, I don't know why, but I just wanted to do this and I saved them. But I took a video of me in the mirror and I'd be like, no, you were, King. And I'd cry. I'm going to cry now because I was just so fucking hurt. And like, I just needed to like video myself. So like a year from now I can look back on it and be like, man, like you were in so much pain then. And it got better, you know, but I fucking want to cry now thinking about how bad I was hurting, you know. And like I hope this episode isn't just us being sad the whole time, you know, just like Sad Boy Club, but it sucks, man, but it's I don't know, I've been so blessed, man. Everybody you could think of has checked in on me, dude. People from the center, normie friends, fans of Indigo that come to shows and stuff, people that I don't even know that well, like just a lot of people have been checking on me, man. And I you know, 4 years ago when I was in my addiction, like I had very little people in my corner. I had like my ex, I had Tanner and Harvey, my family, and that was it. Like I had those 5 people or whatever, like that was it, you know. And I must have had, I don't know, something around 30 to 40 people just check in on me. And then I've had other people like, you know, offer to spend time with me. Like just, I don't know. It's just, I'm super blessed, you know, like, and it's such a cliche thing to say, but it's so true. Like God will never give you anything you can't handle. You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of how I feel. Is just like in the moment when I first got hurt, when it first happened, when I first uncovered this huge lie and realized that this person that I've spent the last 2 years trying to like build a life with, you know, wasn't who I made her out to be, which is, I'm not going to sit here and be like she's a piece of shit or anything like that. She hurt me real bad, but I hurt her too, and like I'll always love her, and she has a lot of things that she's working through, man. And like and another thing, I think God really, I hope that she can see this someday, because I really believe this. I think God put me in her life for the amount of time that I was there to help her, because like, you know, I left that girl a lot better off than I found her. You know what I mean? Like, she had a bad drinking problem. We got together. I helped her. Like, you know, I had to give her a couple of, like, not ultimatums, but pretty much just like, hey, I don't want to be with somebody who drinks like that. You know, if you can't help it, then like, you know, we can figure something out. I don't want to be around you like that. So she quit. I urged her to get into therapy. She got into therapy, you know. And it's like, you know, it may have not ended how I wanted. It may have not met the expectations that I had set. And that's probably my own fault, because expectations lead to resentments. And it's like, you know, you shouldn't really have that many expectations, especially just in life in general. You should just try to, you know, have goals, but no expectations of what you expect from the other person. But I fucking lost my train of thought. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I'm hoping and holding on to the fact that like I lived out my purpose in that time. Like, I did what I was supposed to do, and she did what she was supposed to do. And it sucks how it ended, and it sucks how bad it hurts right now, but you know, it's gonna be all right. You know what I mean? So. No,
I agree. I think mine's kind of from the other side of it. Like, she was put in my life for a very specific reason,
right.
And I remember knowing that, kind of understanding that when it was happening. You know, whenever she was there, I knew that there was, because I always, and I wanted to go back to a little bit what you said about, you know, being able to reevaluate your life because of her. My hair's all fucked up. It's going to bother me. Because one of the things that I first realized, and I don't know if it was necessarily like a toxic thing, or like maybe it was some codependency, but I know that it was one of the markers that I realized that there was genuine feelings there. You know what I mean? It was much more than I had ever experienced before, because I've always had this idea of where my life was going to go as well. Like, I always knew that at some point, you know, I'm going to leave my little studio apartment, and I'm going to, you know, want to travel. And so I thought, I'm just going to get a camper and a big, nice fifth wheel and drag that all over Texas and open up sober livings in different cities and do this thing that I want to do so badly. And I told her about that one time, and we had a conversation about it. And at this point, we were talking about, moving in together. And she said, well, I wouldn't never live in one of those. And I was like, the first day I was like, what the, like, I'm not, okay, fine. Then I guess this isn't meant to be. But then the next day I remember not necessarily thinking about like doing anything differently, but my perspective shifted a little bit to where like, you know what, I could probably still do a lot of the same stuff I want to do and not do it that way. You know what I mean? There's a different pathway for me to go down where I can have the best of both worlds, where I can have this wonderful person that I love so much and be able to pursue my dreams. And that was the first person that I'd ever had that mindset with. The first like time that I ever shifted my perspective enough to think, not just for myself, in that way, and not think about my life in that way. So that was profound to me. What were you talking about? Because I know I said that to say something else.
How you were saying that, she was in your life for a purpose to show you something.
Yeah, and that was now I recognize that she was there, and I'm conflicted on this a lot because I know that I caused her a lot of pain. I know that I brought up a lot of old shit for her that she didn't deserve. She didn't deserve to go through the things that she went through after this. When we talked on the phone, that when I told you I'd reached out to her, she voiced that she's, been feeling a lot of anxiety and fear because she doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most like painful things to hear, that somebody's scared of you, because I mean, I have nothing but love for this person, and but I fully understand how she can see me in a way that isn't the way that everybody else sees me. She saw much more of who I am than anybody's ever seen.
Yeah.
And I can understand, from my past and the things that I've done recently, how that can scare somebody. I fully understand. I fully recognize where, my actions, my behaviors, my decisions can scare somebody.
Right.
I know, and it sucks, and that's why I'm conflicted, because I feel like she was put in my life to show me this, to give me this gift of desperation, to hit this rock bottom, to be able to find that, you know what I mean, and to be able to see where my life is not put together, where my life is not okay. Because one of the things that I was telling his name's Vic last night, he's the guy at the gym, what I was telling him is like, I remember 2 years ago I didn't have enough money to put fucking a full tank of gas in my truck. Yeah. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was struggling through life. I was doubtful about school. I was doubtful about my career. I was doubtful about everything. I had everything was unsure.
Yeah.
And now it's not like that. But at that time, I was extremely connected. I was spiritual. I was happy, joyous, and free, as they say, right? But I traded that off. And I feel like I sold myself to something more, to have more, to be able to accomplish more. And I gave up something. And I didn't have to give it up. I chose to give it up. And I did that in a way of like focusing my efforts in one area and not spreading that around to others. You know what I mean? So I know that I did it to myself, because I sit back now and I look at my financial stability. I look at my, because at that time I was 230 pounds. Like I was unhealthy. I was unhappy, but I was still happy, joyous, and free. Yeah. And now that I'm financially stable, I'm physically fit, I'm very happy with my career. I'm very happy with where I'm at in school. Everything objectively, if you looked at my life on paper, you would say, this guy has to be happy. He's got to be fucking incredibly happy. And it's so weird to say that I'm not. Like I feel so ashamed that I'm empty still. Yeah. Whereas, 2 years ago when I had little to nothing, I was that. Yeah. And you would have looked at my life on paper then and been like, man, this guy's fucking struggling. You know what I mean? But I feel like that this person was put in my life to give me that gift of desperation back, to give me that hard rock bottom that I needed to find something better, to find a better way of doing this life that I'm doing, to still be able to meet my responsibilities, to meet the expectations that I've set for myself with this company, with my career, with everything that's going on, and still succeed in those ways, but also find that joy and that freedom, that happiness that I once had, you know? Yeah. And the reason I'm conflicted is because it caused her so much damage. Like, why does it have to be such a big cost for me to have this lesson, this realization? Why? Because if it was all on me, if it was only affected me, then I would understand and I would feel okay with accepting that gift. But I struggle because I know that the cost doesn't lie on me. The cost lies on her, you know? Yeah. And it hurts to know that she paid the price for me to find this. And I, you know, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that feeling. I don't know how I'm supposed to necessarily handle it or process it or go forward with it, other than not neglecting it. Yeah. You know, I was given this and somebody else paid the price for it. And if I neglect it now, then I not only neglect that gift, but I essentially destroyed her for nothing. You know, I caused that pain for nothing, you know. And so I feel now that even though I'm conflicted about it and I don't feel worthy of it because of the price she paid, I feel like now I have an absolute responsibility to maintain this path that I've been put on, to pursue like a higher level of being in order to at least make it somewhat worthwhile. Something came out of it. Somebody's going to benefit from it because of what she gave up for me, you know? And I think that's maybe what, like, because it's like the flip side for you, you know? Yeah. And hopefully, you know, I don't know, maybe you can speak to that a little bit on like how you feel being the person that paid the price.
Well, man, that really spoke a lot to me, and I hope that my recent ex, can understand someday that, like, you know, that's the part that hurt me the most, is like when I caught her, she had no remorse. She did the thing I used to do when I was a kid when my dad would catch me with drugs. She like got angry and defensive and turned it around on me and tried to blame me. That hurt more than anything. You know, to deny. And I can't say that I haven't done that to other people I've been in relationships with. To deny and justify my actions that hurt another individual, and to deny their pain. You know, that part hurt me the most. I thought we were past that. I thought after 2 years and all this like work and all these conversations, these deep late night conversations, and spending all this time together and making these plans and talking about getting married and talking about having kids, and I thought we were past that. You know, that hurt me the most. And I don't know if she'll ever get there, you know, and like I wish I would have handled this all better, because I kind of made the way I acted towards the end there, like I kind of made a mess of things by you know, taking to social media for validation instead of just sitting with it and talking to my friends and processing it. I never outed her. I didn't say what she did on social media. I wanted to, you know, but I hope that someday she can realize, like, you know, yes, this happened and it sucks, and yes, we've both been given an opportunity to grow past it, but like, you know, I did kind of pay a price for her to figure some shit out. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't do everything right in the relationship, and I didn't give her exactly everything she wanted, exactly how she wanted it, but I did my damnedest. And like, I can honestly say, and like for the majority of the relationship, I felt like it was pretty healthy, maybe except for the last few months. You know, like in the beginning, when we had an issue, we sat down and talked about it. We didn't fight. We weren't mean when if we argued. You know, I gave it my all, you know, and I can see now my partner that I am not the best possible version of myself. There's a lot of things I need to still work on. I'm not physically where I want to be. I'm not financially where I want to be. I'm not spiritually where I want to be. But I hope someday she can like look back on the way I treated her and how hard I tried, and she can like realize that, like, you know, the way she hurt me, I didn't deserve it, you know? And I really hope that she doesn't do that to another person. Like it sucks, and like the way it ended, it made me crazy. She made me feel insane. Like she literally tried to gaslight me and say that I should have known and that everyone does this. It's fine. And and I don't know. I don't want to say what she did because I don't want that to be. I don't want it to be used as a weapon against her or anybody. I don't think. I don't know. I just. That's the hardest part. I think was just like being hurt and then being told that you're stupid for being hurt, or that you're weak because this hurt you. And maybe that's true. Maybe if I were stronger, it wouldn't have hurt as bad as it did, but it did, And I don't know. I kind of went off track, but I don't want to like boost myself up here and sound like I'm this fucking saint and like, yeah, like I paid the price for her to get better. I mean, I feel like I got hurt more, if we were going to look at what happened from what compared to what I did wrong to what she did wrong, I definitely got hurt more. I don't think anybody who's a rational human, everybody I've talked to and I've told them the whole story, they've all agreed like, wow, that's fucked up. That's really fucked up. She did that to you after 2 years. And I've never been hurt so bad in my life. Like I've been in several relationships, I've been in several long-term relationships. I've dated a girl for a year, for 4 years, for almost a year, for 2 years. Like, I mean, none of those are like crazy, crazy long, but they're longer than some people's relationships, and, I've hurt other people and, I had this coming in a sense because I've never been hurt this bad before, but I've definitely caused this much pain to other people. I mean, my ex of 4 years, I fucking wrecked her life, dude. Like I stole from her. I stole her car. I gaslighted her. I like got her to do drugs and she still spun off on drugs, and like, I just hope that I finally feel like I can kind of close the circle and like balance the force with this one. Like I got what I deserved, maybe karmically in the whole grand scheme of things, like, and maybe I can in the next stage, in the next phase, a year from now, I can like be with the right person, and neither one of us have to like leave it the way that we've left our previous ones, and nobody has to get hurt like that, and we can, I don't know if I believe in soulmates or like the one, but like I think it's just you can find somebody who is like fits for you, who doesn't complete you like we said before, but who complements your life and who can like add to your life in a real meaningful way, and you can share some really good things like, children and life experiences and holidays, traditions, family, all these things that like, I mean, for me, like ever since I was a kid, like I do have happy memories of my family, and then that ended, and I've always wanted, I know that deep down, like I've always wanted that again. I wanted to have that for myself and like make that for other people that I get to share it with, and it not get disrupted, and it not end in divorce, and it not end in addiction and destruction like it did for me, and trauma and all that, and I want that so bad, and I got a little vision of it for the last 2 years to be with somebody who had a kid and share a lot of really happy memories with, and like I said earlier, I feel like we're kind of talking in circles now, or at least I am, but like I was really hurt, and I still am. Like I still wake up and I'm still hurting in the mornings, like waking up alone sucks sometimes. I'm so grateful for my little dog to fucking snuggle up with me at night, but like if I have to go through this pain to experience the happiness I got to experience for 2 years, if life is really just pain and beauty wrapped into one, like then I will gladly take some pain so I can get to experience some beauty, because that's like, there's no free rides on this fucking human experience,
I want to kind of close with something that maybe, I know it's going to be difficult for me to do. I know it'll probably be difficult for you to do, but I want to speak directly to the camera and tell yourself, because when we get, in early recovery, you get to write a letter to your former self, right?
Yeah.
And I always wondered what it would be like to write a letter to your future self when you're at that bottom.
Yeah.
And I think this is an opportunity for us to speak to ourselves in 6-9 months to a year.
Yeah.
And like I said, that when he told me that last night about maintaining that thorn in my side, I don't ever want to forget this feeling. I don't ever want to forget where I am right now.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be cool for us to end it with like just a little bit about, talking to yourself and whatever time frame that it takes, to get back to that peace and that tranquility that we once had. Just to kind of hear where we're at now, and that way at least for me selfishly, I can maintain that thorn in my side for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to go first or you want me to go first?
It doesn't matter.
All right, I'll go first.
Okay.
Fuck, this is kind of hard. I've actually already done this a little bit. But so wherever you are right now, this pain that you felt, this experience that you've had that's rocked you to your core, all the tears you've shed, all the sad songs you've written, everything bad that you felt, this sinking feeling that's every time you see a picture of her, you hear her name, even if it's somebody else named with the same name, this like empty feeling in your stomach. Like, I hope that it went away eventually, and I hope that you let this like give you the strength to grow and to fix all these things that you know that you have to fix. And I know that you did. I know that you're going to look back on this a year, 2 years from now, however long it takes to heal, however long it takes to like become the best possible version of yourself. I hope that you find somebody that deserves everything that you deserve, and I hope that you are able to be the person that you wanted to have, and not possess, but the person that I hope you become the person that you would want to share your life with. And I hope that you're able to give that to somebody else, and not keep records, and not hold grudges, and not get resentful, and not hold on to things that don't matter. I hope that you get to a place where you can like love unconditionally the way that God has loved you, the second chances and third and fourth and fifth chances that you've been given. I hope that you can give that to somebody else, and I hope that you can find the person to build a family with and share your life with and grow past all of these things.
That's beautiful, man. I thought this was going to be a good idea. It's not a good idea.
We may cut it. I don't know.
No, we can keep it. At least keep it for ourselves. Just as we've said, and the one thing that you've taken away from this so far is that this pain is truly for a purpose. And you've spent so many years not utilizing that pain for good things. You've spent so much time and effort in hiding it and suppressing it that I hope that you've not done that this time. This sinking feeling that you feel every day, this overwhelming sense of regret and remorse, is worth so much more than you've given it the opportunity to be worth. You've allowed yourself to suppress and hide all of these feelings for so long that this time I won't allow you to do that. I can't let you do that again. I can't let you hurt another human being the way that you've hurt this person that you love so deeply. And I hope that where you're sitting today is in a much better place. I hope that you feel love for yourself first and foremost, because you've never allowed yourself to do that. You've never given yourself the opportunity to find that true love for yourself. You've hated yourself for too long, and that's where you are, where I am now. And I hope that wherever you are now at this year or 2 year, whatever period of time that you look back at this, that this really rings in your ears still to this day. And I hope that this thorn that I'm carrying in my side now is still there, because that's the only reminder that you're going to have of the times that you've been in this rock bottom. The rock bottom that you felt in 2017 has faded. It's gone out into the ether, and you've healed from that. And this one will not be allowed to do that, because this one means much more than the first one. This one means tenfold of what that one did, and you cannot be allowed to let that go. You've got to utilize this to its full extent. And I hope more than anything that this therapy and this spiritual path that you're on that I'm on right now really takes you to the place that you're looking for, and that you find that true love for yourself that you can give to somebody else. I hope that you find that, and that you remember that this pain really does have some sort of purpose, that there is much more beyond this period of time in your life, and that you don't put yourself in this situation again. And more than anything, you don't put another person in this situation again. This is something that is unforgivable for you, and you have to be able to utilize this to its full extent, and you cannot forget this. There is more to this life than selfish ventures and selfish endeavors and all of these great things that you found yourself doing, and all the success that you've been able to acquire, and much more, I'm sure now, has to be for the right reasons. There can't be an asterisk by everything you do. There can't be a list of accomplishments and a list of loving things that you've done for somebody. Those lists can't exist anymore. They have to be dissolved, and this has to be done for the right reasons. So wherever you're at now, if you're doing that again, stop. Fucking stop, Because I can tell you right now, the way that I feel every day, every moment that I walk into my apartment thinking that she's going to be there, like all these ridiculous things that pop into my mind throughout the day. I don't want to have gone through these for nothing. I don't want to have put her through this for nothing. So where you are now, I hope that you've utilized these experiences, and I hope that you've taken full advantage of this desperation and this pain. And I hope that you found the things that you've been looking for so desperately, that peace, that tranquility, that serenity that you've searched for years and years and years. And I hope that you found it, and that you are exploring it to its full extent, and you're grateful for it. Because right now I can tell you that's all I want. So don't give up on this path that you've been put on. Don't look back at the things that you've destroyed, but don't forget them. I think that's it.
Cool, man. Well, thanks y'all for listening. It was a long one and a bit of a doozy.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, man.